Come on down. Somers. Nice. I obviously know where that is. Yeah, that is very, very close to me.
Everybody, happy Friday. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the week. The weekend is here. Welcome to the Tip-Off, the show that sets the stage for all the most important news, daily fantasy plays, and bets on tonight's 8-game NBA slate, 14 game MLB slate, and Dr. Ross's favorite, the Kentucky Derby. We're going to get to it all today. We've got a full show for you guys. Welcome to Chris Spags and Dr. Rasa. Guys, how's your Friday?
Overjoyed to be here again. Overjoyed at the prospect of Kayla's camera making her frustrated and making Ben and I laugh and get the giggles. Excited to close out a week. It's a lot of good stuff to talk about today. So I'm also going to learn a lot about the Kentucky Derby thanks to our pal Ben and his degenerate betting. So all upside on the show today.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good Friday, actually. There's a lot of big races today. I'll be talking about some during the show. So far, so good at Churchill today. So nothing major, but after an NFL draft that we'll recap a little bit. I'm happy to get a new groove here on a Friday.
Yes. And for those wondering in the chat, I'm taking the camera to Best Buy immediately following today's show. So hopefully there will be no more shutting off. I don't know what's going on, but fingers crossed it doesn't happen today. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for countless hours of content on the NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and every other sport that's in season. Really quickly, we want to talk to you about our sponsor, No House Advantage, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a first match deposit bonus of up to $20. Be your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. Moving right into our bad beats. Last night, we had the NFL draft going on alongside the usual run of NBA and MLB games. I want to know how it went for you guys. Ben, we're going to start with you.
So the draft wasn't great. The Bengals screwed it up royally. I'm going to rant about them a little later in the show. I'll just leave it at that. NBA was interesting. I mean, the Rockets game was out of control. Kevin Porter Jr. was sometimes you just see one of those performances, and it was one of those last night. big win for them. I know, the Bucks weren't at full strength, but still, just to see the Rockets do that was pretty impressive. But I was mostly focused on the draft, which that's a whole show for another time. Some big, obviously, news stories coming out of that, but the Bengals, as usual, just screwed it all up.
Yeah, the Bengals ruined my Jamar Chase take where I thought he could fall. I think if they didn't take him there, I think Jamar Chase would have fallen a little bit farther than Waddle. So that was one bet that we talked about on the show that unfortunately didn't pan out. But I had a great day in the NBA. I'm feeling really good about it. Had 5x the field on Kevin Porter Jr. And I have to say, this is something where this is going to sound like an ad, but you guys know me enough by watching the shows I've done for Awesemo for a while. I had a great night entirely because of the boom bust tool. For one of the first nights ever, I always use my own projections. Obviously, I talk about on a lot of shows. I counterbalance them across with Awesemo's, make sure I'm not doing anything crazy. But I used the boom bust tool basically religiously yesterday, where I tracked all my ownership. Unfortunately, had less KD than I would have had, but still had 70% of him. And then because I didn't have a ton of Jokic or a ton of Mike James or a ton of Tyler Johnson, still had about 30% of those guys, but didn't go crazy with it. I ended up getting to a lineup that had finished, I think, top 5 in the $4 on DK, which had a nice little outcome. So happy with that. Happy with the boom bust tool. Really can now fully coast on it. Obviously, every day a great frame of reference, but I used it straight up for my exposures yesterday and got the best results I've had in a few weeks. So very happy with the outcome, even if the draft could have been better, as we all would have liked.
Well, how nice for you, Spags.
That's what we're here for, to be happy for each other and for me especially.
Exactly. Getting to our NBA news. Big news, you guys. LeBron James is reportedly a game time decision to return tonight in what should be a high upside situation versus Sacramento. Spags, do you see him or any other Lakers as playable options?
No. So I think the thing for LeBron is he's going to be coming in and going to be playing limited minutes. That's going to be obviously the way they're ramping him up to get ready for the playoffs. There have been some reports out there. LeBron might not have been as hurt as it seemed, but still the whole process of him being out here was just to get him some rest, get him going, to get him downshifted and then shift him back up. So I think that's going to be the case here. And the net result really for everybody else is you would have LeBron squeezing a few minutes off of Anthony Davis. I've already been down Anthony Davis relative to some of our peers, both on this channel and across the industry, where even against Washington, he didn't come through last time out. I think the net result really of him being in this lineup is that Andre Drummond gets less valuable. Schroeder gets less valuable. Everybody's less valuable because they're priced for situations they're not currently in. You throw LeBron in that mix too. You can't play LeBron. You probably can't play AD. If these guys spike an upside, more power to you for playing them. But I think just taking it on their face, you probably shouldn't play any Lakers tonight if LeBron does make it in.
Yeah, this is the same situation that we saw pretty recently when Anthony Davis returned. And it was just like, well, you can't play him, but it really makes it difficult to get to the other Lakers. And obviously this team, they're on the short list. They're probably number 1 in the league that have the longest term focus. They don't care about any of this. They want to obviously avoid anything major in terms of playoff positioning, but they're looking, of course, towards the postseason. So LeBron is firmly out of play. And if he does play, as Spags just mentioned, Schroeder not going to be distributing as much. AD, I think it's fine, but I'm not looking there. This is a pretty big slate tonight. So the Lakers are a team that you really have to take a wait and see approach. And that, we're going to see. They're obviously a sizable favorite at home here, but you really don't want to venture in there with LeBron making it nearly impossible to kind of, gauge that situation.
In that same game, Sacramento is expected to have Marvin Bagley back while De'Aaron Fox and Harrison Barnes remain out. So Ben, who appeals to you on their side, if anyone?
So it's better than the Lakers side, I'll say that, but it's not a side that I'm really interested in either. Of course, Halliburton is going to be busy and he's going to have to step up. They are going to stay in this game. You've got Buddy Hield, who he's been great. I mean, obviously Steph is in a different category. You take him out. Buddy Hield from 3 in particular has been unbelievable all year. Those two are going to be expected to do the heavy lifting. I think the thing to point out, though, is they're not getting a huge bump in anything. They've already been priced. It's not like these guys are stepping into different roles, even with the Kings kind of not at full strength. And then you look at like DeLon Wright, things like that. I think that's a little thin, to be honest. So despite a couple key pieces out, 10.5 point, like I said, road dogs, I don't see a ton. If you wanted to get to Halliburton, that's fine. I think it's a reasonable tag at 74, but by no means a must play.
Yeah, Halliburton to me looks like the one guy I'd be willing to take the stab on here. Marvin Bagley coming back in, likely going to have some reduction in minutes. Awesemo has him playing just 20 today, so that's a little bit of concern for Bagley. And him being in two does change the equation enough that I don't think anybody jumps out meaningfully. Buddy Hield should see less usage in whatever court time Bagley's going to have. Chimi Metsu is not going to get the run that he picked up in the last couple games, or last game in particular, without having those guys playing the 4. Tyrese Halliburton, I think, still playable, as Ben mentioned, but not popping off to me in a meaningful way. He does have a 33% assist rate and a little more usage in court time without Fox. So even with those rates, I think you can get get there a little bit, but it's not popping up meaningfully for me. So overall, Sacramento's a team that's sort of priced again for a situation they're not really supposed to be in now, with Bagley coming back in, and Barnes maybe a little bit of a wash with Bagley taking his spot, but still takes enough off the table here where I don't see anybody being worthwhile in any sort of major way.
Brooklyn will be without Kevin Durant and Bruce Brown, with James Harden still out, while Kyrie Irving is expected to return to the lineup. So Spags, how do Kyrie and the remaining Nets look in a high total game versus Portland?
So Kyrie, I think if you're playing cash games today, whether it be on Draftkings or Fanduel, looks like a play that you has to be probably the first guy you put in no matter what you're doing. I think for tournaments, it's going to be a different question where the boom bust tool is not looking too favorably upon Kyrie earlier. And I think that's something that gives me some pause. I imagine I'll still get probably a quarter of my lineups with Kyrie, and we'll see how that looks. Obviously an important tool to keep your eye on throughout the day because as other point guard plays drop off, you could see Kyrie's optimal lineup rate go up a little bit more if there were somebody ruled out that we're not expecting right now. But Kyrie, I think a very solid play, a play I don't have issue with. I really think, though, the main thing would be I wouldn't just plug him in and play him 100% like some of these guys or like Kevin Durant might have been yesterday. I think the one guy I would look at here, and this is one where this game tips off at 8 p.m., so the news might not be out there in time, but Alize Johnson or DeAndre Jordan, if Jordan starts, I have a lot more confidence in him getting the run that he's going to need to have against a pretty big Portland front court. But Alize Johnson, I think no matter what the situation is, whether he starts or doesn't, I think he's going to get more run today. Yesterday, he was playing minutes behind Joe Harris as well as behind Kevin Durant at various points. And I think the minutes for him, he's been a tremendous rebounder. It's hard to see him not playing at least 15 minutes today and a potential to get to somewhere around that 30-minute mark he was yesterday. So he's not a direct beneficiary, I think, of Kevin Durant being out, but just more minutes opening up on the wing and at the 4 too. It's going to open up some Alize Johnson in a way that I think he looks like a very strong play at 3K flat on DraftKings.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you got a flat 3K guy coming off the old 20 for 20 game, that's going to work pretty nice. So the thing, you kind of get bailed out in two ways. Even if you don't get the minutes with him, he's just so high production. He can get there in limited minutes. Then if you get the minutes, sky's the limit. I think the interesting thing is coming off this situation was basically the same, except we're inserting Kyrie for Durant. Yesterday, we talked on this very show how popular Durant was going to be. He's an absolute must in cash. And honestly, in tournaments, it was almost, play him and just leverage elsewhere. Kyrie, I don't think is to that extent, but he's still looking at our ownership projections, which of course are going to change as more news comes in. Kyrie looks to be very, very popular, and it's pretty easy to see why that is, given the personnel for the Nets here. And it's a competitive game. They're at home. Should be up and down, and they are actually, I think they're a slight dog as I look at the spread here. 3-point dog at home. So this could be a very good game for Kyrie to thrive, and the price is reasonable. I get it, but if his ownership stays, in the 40% range and whatnot on an 8-game slate, I do think this is a little easier to pivot than Durant yesterday.
All right. Giannis left yesterday's Rockets game after 1 minute, obliterating a large portion of people's lineups. So, Ben, how does it look if he's in or out tonight versus Chicago?
Yeah, so if he's out, it's probably, to me, the easier situation because we've seen this before. You get to target Chris Middleton, and he takes 30 shots. He makes 4 of them, and then we talk about it. But you've got Holiday, you've got him, you've got Portis. We know the guys for Milwaukee that will step up. It's going to be a team effort if Giannis sits. If Giannis is going to try to give it a go, I'm a little confused just because, again, they're another team. They have an eye on a championship. They don't really care about winning in Chicago tonight as much, and it's an ankle. I would assume they'll be pretty cautious with him, and you're paying 10-7 for a guy that, we saw in the playoffs last year when he tried to come back. Any tweak, he's getting pulled from this game. There's no doubt about it. So I have a feeling they will be cautious with him. We'll see what the news says. And if they are, like I said, you can rely on the past data with Middleton, with Holiday, with all the other Bucks kind of stepping in to fill that role.
Giannis, a very productive 1 minute yesterday with 4.5 fantasy points, but that's probably not enough for you to get there. And there goes Kayla. Down goes Kayla.
Cash that ticket. 19 minutes in.
Oh, she still got her audio though, so we're okay. Chris Middleton, I think if Giannis is out, it takes the immediate jump upwards. Drew Holiday going to get more in the assist upside, and Drew Holiday was a guy who ended up winning some tournaments that I was in yesterday, and I think that was one that the play didn't make sense to me going in. Then Giannis being ruled out, I think he kind of luck boxed that, but the situation net result is going to be that I'm saying net result too much. Drew Holiday, though, looks like a great play if Giannis is out. If he's in, I wouldn't want to get there a bunch. But I think it is an important item where a lot of the chat right now is saying Giannis has to be out. And I would agree, but we just saw, and this is a completely different situation, but Brandon Goodwin was in a wheelchair the other day, left a game because of his ankle, ended up getting a negative MRI, then came back in and played more than enough minutes. And Giannis is a different situation, obviously, but his longer term issues have been with his knees, not with his ankle. So it wouldn't shock me if he played, but definitely one that you're going to need to know here. I agree with Ben's take. I don't know why Milwaukee would play him, but it does seem like Giannis maybe forcing his way into games a little bit more recently, where yesterday against the Rockets kind of seemed like a logical spot to rest him too. They didn't do that. Today does seem like a logical spot to rest him. Wouldn't shock me if they didn't do it again. So watch the news here. And obviously if Giannis is out, you're going to play your Middleton, you're going to play your Drew, and Bobby Portis too gets a bump upwards, and people will probably flock to him heavily because of the revenge narrative as well.
Okay, you guys, that actually was not the camera. That was me. I thought I was off camera. I have an adapter. I have a plug-in for my mouse and a plug-in for the charger. The charger can only go in one of the spots. And I was at 36%. I accidentally plugged it in the wrong spot. So I'm sneakily trying to like plug it, unplug it, plug it back in. The whole adapter popped out. That's what that was. It was not the camera's fault. Let it be clear. If it's not one thing, it's another, right? All right. The Jazz will be without Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell again after we saw their shorthanded squad win their last game by 50 points. So Spags, how does the decision look in more competitive spot versus Phoenix?
So here's what I'm intrigued by here. And I want to see Jordan Clarkson starting before I gain the confidence that I had in him the other day, because that was really what screwed him up here. Is coming off the bench, the game blowing out. This spot against Phoenix, I don't think you can get away with playing George Niang as your starting player here in lieu of Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell, because Phoenix is actually a good team. Sacramento, I think they kind of knew, hey, we can cakewalk in this one and get the results. And they did, because they won by 50 points. So kudos to them. Kudos to Quinn Snyder knowing his team well enough and how it would work. But I do think Jordan Clarkson, he lost minutes in that last game just coming off the bench. He did play 25 minutes. I think he probably would have gotten to 30s or so if that game stayed competitive. But also the last time that Conley and Mitchell didn't play before that last game, Clarkson played 40 plus minutes in that spot. And I think going against Phoenix, another West competitor who does bring their A game a lot, I wouldn't shock me to see Clarkson start. And I think the fact too, people were burned by him last game. If he's going to hold at 15% ownership, I do want to get above that. So I get the apprehension people have. I get people maybe want to go to Joe Ingles more, even though he disappointed last time out. But I just wouldn't view this as being, it's going to be, it's exactly going to be the way it was last game, because we've seen them do different things in the past. And I do think in a competitive spot against Phoenix, you probably need Jordan Clarkson out there a lot more than you need George Niang.
Totally agree. So this is actually, I think, a pretty good situation because of the recency bias. People just quickly look at the box score and say, Clarkson, and that doesn't tell the story. Again, 50-point blowouts that's in a different category than just a blowout altogether. That's to the extreme. And this is a game, Suns at home. I'm not going to say they need the game. Neither team, of course, needs the game, but both these teams do want to hold home court, and they right now are battling it out. So I do think that the Jazz will do everything to try to win this game. And of course, Phoenix is as well. So that could push Clarkson way above what we saw against Sacramento. And I think that is the key factor here. The other guys on the Jazz, Ingles, Bogdanovic, I don't really see it, to be honest. I think Clarkson's the one guy that you can kind of buy low on just off that recency bias. We know how explosive he's going to win the sixth man, and he's 7,300. So I think he's got a big range of outcomes in this game tonight. And if the Jazz can stay close or win the game, it's hard to imagine that Clarkson isn't the reason.
And finally, Colin Sexton is also a game time decision tonight after we've recently seen Darius Garland break a slate without him in a pace-up spot versus Washington. Ben, who looks good if Sexton is in or if he's out?
So, we're going to stick. Of course, if Sexton sits, Garland's just been fantastic. He's been distributing. He's had 10 assists in 2 straight games. Just been great all around. He plays major minutes. And I'll give a shout out to the other side, though. Washington's been better. Your boy Russ Westbrook's got it kind of in cruise control. They're fighting to get in this new playoff format, and they are a 6.5-point favorite here on the road. So I do see it. I guess, Spags, my question, though, is if Sexton does play, Garland's going to be a little thin then because he's been priced up because of this production. Maybe as an aggressive tournament play, but I don't know if I'd want to venture there. You've got Allen on the inside. Kevin Love, I don't even know if he wants to play anymore after swatting the ball inbound style, but I think it's much easier, of course, if Sexton sits, it clears the deck for Garland once again.
Yeah, Garland, I think is completely unplayable if Sexton is in at 8K on DraftKings. I think it's very tough for him to pay off that price point because his assist rate is going to be where it's been all year long, which has been a perfectly fine 31%, but him getting a few more percentage points on that is what's been making him more useful. In addition to the usage rate for him is really the main thing because Colin Sexton's a 30% usage rate guy. Having that out of the lineup just means that you're going to see more of Garland getting that opportunity. And I think that to me is the main thing where I don't mind Garland as a tournament flyer if you get Sexton out, but if Sexton's in, I think you can go back to the big men. You can go to Jared Allen, no problem with that. You go back to Kevin Love, even with the questionable motivation that he's shown recently. I think he's still playing enough minutes, has been still playing pretty productively when he's out there. So those are the guys I think you can go to if Sexton is in. But yeah, if Sexton is in, I really don't want to play Garland at all. I just think this price point's very high. And if 7% of the field wants to chase that today, more power to him. I just think there's no way that works out if we do get a Colin Sexton available.
Friends of Awesemo, we are also excited to announce a special offer for Yahoo's NBA DFS contest tonight. Yahoo is pushing back NBA Lock to 7:30 p.m. Eastern to allow for us to host a 30-minute post NBA Live Before Lock show to break down all the top plays for Yahoo NBA DFS tonight. So make sure you tune in for that. We will have all the great Awesemo Plus tools you're accustomed to for Yahoo NBA DFS as well. So use those to build your best lineup tonight. If you are new to Yahoo DFS, well, it's great. You can get $30 in free contest entries when you sign up with promo code Awesemo, which includes their $25,000 NBA Baller contest. This is a one-time offer, so take advantage of it. Again, that is tonight. Yahoo is now known as one of the leaders in fantasy sports for a reason, so give Yahoo DFS a shot tonight. In case you didn't know, it's tonight.
We need copywriters on staff, honestly. Like, no offense to our guys who do a great job, but sometimes the marketing copy is like, wow, I find this very difficult to read, and I get it, Kayla. I very much am there with you. But Yahoo, woo, Yahoo, indeed.
Woohoo, yes.
Yeah.
Get on it, guys.
Yahoo's good people. You remember the YSRP, Spags?
Oh, yes. Lofty and I had a bit. We were doing the NFL strategy shows in the mornings where I would talk about the various things you could buy with YSRPs that you cannot buy. In fact, the only thing you can buy are entries on Yahoo. But it's funny to think about the yachts that our boy Rinpack could be buying right now with his YSRPs if you could catch them.
Indeed. And now for Dr. Ross's favorite segment of the day besides his own. Kentucky Derby. This weekend, we will see the Kentucky Derby weekend take place. And for those of you out there unfamiliar, our own Dr. Ben Rasa is also quite the fan of the ponies. Ben, any thoughts overall on how to approach Kentucky Derby betting?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite day of the year tomorrow. I'm very excited. My dog growing up was named Derby. Love those horses. So yeah, I mean, listen, for a lot of people, this is the only time you're going to bet a race all year. You got 20 horses in there. Basically, you're going to look at the odds. You can go with a name if you don't know what you're doing. You can listen to this segment. There's so many factors. Obviously, it's very difficult to handicap a 20-horse race, but really what you want to do is get an idea of where your horse is going to be coming from. If you want someone who goes to the front, there are certain horses that are going to do that, or other horses will kind of, take their time and try to close at the end, to put it simplistically. So a lot of different styles within a race like this. It's very excited. The weather looks great. We don't have to worry about that at Churchill. I'm excited to dive into it. I know Spags is secretly a horse guru, so don't let him fool you with his I don't know anything about the Kentucky Derby look.
Yeah, but dude, that's to the point that before the show, and I've actually gone, I mentioned to Ben beforehand that I went to the Belmont, saw American Pharoah win his Triple Crown. Great moment to be a part of as well. But I had no idea that horse racing odds, in fact, are not one of those things where you lock in better odds early on and then you win that money. So that's something that Ben told me before the show, which I was like, wow, that does kind of suck. Definitely makes it easier for the casuals out there. Makes it easier for you guys if you are just going to place a last minute bet. But that's one thing that I would just say that I learned that I find interesting, that maybe something people aren't aware of, is that there is no edge to getting these horses, a month ago now. They are going to be priced where they are by the time the race gets going.
And great news about the weather. I feel like it's a downpour every year for whatever reason.
So that's true. For some reason, that's absolutely right. There's always a problem, and it's always a downpour, but that will not be happening tomorrow. It looks great.
Fabulous. Are you going to drink some mint juleps, Ben?
No, I don't think I've ever had a mint julep. Well, I wear a funny hat probably, but I wear funny hats on Saturdays no matter what. So that won't change it up for me. But yeah, I mean, I've never been to the Kentucky Derby, so Never been to Kentucky, so maybe
Mint
one
juleps
day.
are very overrated. When New York, there was a while where I was doing the Kentucky Derby like bar party things people would do.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, they're fun. You dress up, you get to wear the silly outfits. You just go to a bar, you drink one mint julep and go, oh, this isn't really not that good. Why is it so strong? It's really not appealing at all, but it's part of the experience. So I enjoyed that. I feel like the Pimm's cups are what I remember drinking more at the Derby events, and those are very good. So that's my really best recommendation I can give for the Kentucky Derby is drinking out of Pimm's cups.
A former job I had, I made a, what was it? A mojito mint julep or something. It was like a mix between two things. It was pretty tasty though, actually.
I could see that.
Yeah. That's
all
fair.
right. Let's get to the top odds getters for the Kentucky Derby, which look good and which don't. How about these names, by the way, too? First up, we've got Essential Quality, 2-1 to win. Rock Your World, 5-1. Hot Rod Charlie, 9-1. Known Agenda, Spags' favorite. Medina Spirit, Midnight Bourbon, love that name, and Highly Motivated Earl, 10-1 or higher. So is there a long shot bet that you should take? Ben, we're going to start with you here.
So I'll just run through it real quick. Essential Quality should be the favorite. He's undefeated. He's good. He won the Bluegrass. I don't think he's nearly as good as the favorites in years past. My horse, who I like, is Highly Motivated. I'm not going to say should have beat him. He lost by a nose. Essential Quality hunted him down in that race. We'll see where the pace goes. A lot of people are making a big deal about Known Agenda breaking from the one hole. It's not good, but it's not a disaster. That is way overrated. If you hear people say that, don't freak out. The horse by you guys out of California is Rock Your World. He's 5-1. He's undefeated. He was a turf horse, ran on the dirt in the Santa Anita Derby, crushed it. He's probably the wild card. There's a chance that he's just dominant and he crushes these horses. There's a chance that he's not that good. So for me, I like Highly Motivated. I think he's kind of under the radar. You're going to get probably around 10-1 there. I'm going to try to beat Essential Quality. I think that's probably the worst odds in terms of value at 2-1. I'd go to Rock Your World before I'd go to him. I'd go to Known Agenda before I'd go to him. I'd go to Highly Motivated before I'd go to him. It's pretty wide open, though. This is a good betting race. There's not a dominant favorite like Spags talked about with American Pharaoh, who was just coming into the Derby. Everybody thought he was going to win. Leaving the Derby, everyone thought he was going to win the Triple Crown. There's no horse like that in this field that I say.
I would also say that, just one observation from me being a layman here for horse racing. Ben mentioned you have 20 horses, but you only have one hot rod out there in Hot Rod Charlie. And I feel like hot rod versus horse, that leads me to think that Hot Rod Charlie has better chances than people may give him. So 9-1 odds, sign me up for old Hot Rod Charlie. And I don't know if I'm offended by Kayla saying Known Agenda. It's my horse du jour.
I lied. Wasn't it? It was Highly Motivated before the show.
It was Highly Motivated. Oh yeah. I thought you were just saying that I had a Known Agenda here on the show. Like I was doing some little finger Game of Thrones manipulation. And I can tell you, I'm only manipulating the lines for Hot Rod Charlie, my favorite hot rod / horse on the slate.
Do you guys think that more people bet on what the odds are or the horse name?
Oh,
horse name.
I'd say like 80% of the people that bet the Kentucky Derby don't understand like what odds are. They're betting colors or they're betting names. And you know what? That's a fair way to do it for Kentucky Derby Day. It's like I said, a 20 horse field. There's a lot going on. Hot Rod Charlie's got a shot. You're on the Josh Engelman train. He likes soup and sandwich because he likes soup and sandwiches. And I respect that. So there's a lot of ways to do it. We'll see. You got to get a good break. You got to set the pace. If you're looking for a little more in depth, me and Josh did a contenders video where we get really into the race, maybe how it's going to unfold, things of that nature. The other thing I want to say real quickly is King Fury, who was, named after Tyson Fury, the champ. He scratched. So he's off. There's only 19 horses now. I probably should have mentioned that. So one less to deal with.
18 horses and one hot rod, to be clear.
Fair. Good point. Good point.
So Spags is rolling with Hot Rod Charlie. Yes.
Yeah. I like that.
I'm taking Midnight Bourbon simply based on the name. And Ben, you are going with?
Highly Motivated.
All right. We'll follow up next week and see how we did.
Are you a bourbon gal, Kayla? Because you really did perk up at Midnight Bourbon. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I hate bourbon.
I like bourbon too. I feel like I had a bourbon stage when I was I got to be a man and drink bourbon. And I enjoy a bourbon from time to time. Can't be a regular bourbon guy, but I really respect like a woman who goes to town on some bourbon. I'm like, wow, that girl has either a dark past or a dark future. I don't know which one.
Guys, I'm from the Midwest.
That's also fair.
All right, Ben, anything else you want to add before we move on?
The only other thing is if you are, everyone wants to bet the Kentucky Derby and I get it. There's a lot of races tomorrow, big races that most people won't care about. But if you're looking to bet, get on in, even if you just sign up for a week, get a weekly pass, you get in our Slack. I'm going to be dropping bets in there all day tomorrow. We're going to have a good time. We've got a great community in that sports betting channel. So if you're looking to have some fun, sign up for a week. It's very cheap, less than $10. You get in, you get some DFS knowledge, but you also get access to Slack, and that's going to mean a lot of fun tomorrow.
It'll feel like a week within that day.
Yes, that feel like a month, honestly, after we're done with some of these races.
All right, let's head to the diamond for some of the top bets and plays on tonight's MLB DFS slate for biggest bat. Which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you think is the best overall bet to hit a home run tonight? We've got Stanton plus 235, Trout plus 275, Alonso plus 290, Seager plus 310, and Aaron Judge plus 310. Spags.
So I think Stanton's going to be the one that jumps out for a lot of people who's been hitting the ball really well. I guess the same thing applies to Aaron Judge, where they have a pretty good matchup for themselves, and they're both going against Tariq Skubal, a guy for Detroit who has not done a very good job at all in a limited major league sample size, giving him an 8% home run rate. So I would have no issue with those two bets. The one thing I think is going against the two Yankees picks there is that they're going in Detroit, or they're playing rather against Detroit in a cold weather situation in New York. Excuse me. So that was a misspeak there, but got to look at the weather always for MLB. And a cold ball doesn't fly as far. It's going to be 59 degrees in the park today by the time that game starts going. So in this spot, I really don't love those guys. Trout, I think not in the best situation either. But Pete Alonso, another New York player here going into a spot in Philadelphia. It's also going to be kind of cold. So you are getting that downgrade, but he's going against Chase Anderson, a guy who has a longer sample size of being bad, where Skubal has a limited sample size of it. But with a guy like Chase Anderson, you know what you're getting. And that since 2019 has been a 4.5% home run rate. Since last season, a 6% home run rate. He's getting worse by every single outing, it seems like. So to me, going to Pete Alonso here, a guy that I also think will have some power regression in a positive way this year because didn't play that great in the short pandemic season last year. I think he's showing some strides so far, and I do like Pete Alonso here to come through when maybe the Yankees don't.
I'm going to go with obviously the public side. When I looked at this, I thought, wow, the Yankees are almost like minus 400 favorites. I'm going to go to Stanton against a guy who I don't know much about, but he doesn't seem good. I was talking before the show with our producer, my man behind the glass, Chris. We're both in the same area. It is the windiest I've ever seen it in New York. So if the wind is blowing out, there's going to be home runs on home runs on home runs. So given this Tigers team, I think the Yankees roll them. Obviously, Judge and Stanton will have opportunities. The odds aren't great, plus 235. Normally when we see this, even like Trout, I was just going to say, he's on the list and he's always in like that plus 270, plus 275 range. But you know what? I'll still go with Stanton at plus 235.
Next up, we've got biggest arm. Which of these top 4 odds getters on OddsShopper do you think is the best strikeouts over bet tonight? And is there a good under bet that you like? We've got Shane Bieber over under 9.5 strikeouts, Garrett Cole over under 9.5, Lance McCullers Jr. over under 6.5, Pablo Lopez over under 5.5, and Nathan Valdi.
You had it before the show.
Yeah, you were rolling before the show.
I write it out. Over under 6.5 strikeouts, Ben.
So I'm going to go with Bieber. That game, the over-under in the game is only 6.5. That's really low. It looks like it could be a pitcher's duel there. I respect the White Sox enough, but the Indians are favorite on the road here, and I think Bieber will do enough. So again, this is something, what I would do if I was going to bet these props is I would shop the line on OddsShopper, see if I'm getting some value at one of the books and I can steal maybe either a strikeout or steal some vig or juice. And with Bieber in this situation, I think he can push over that total.
Bieber's been a monster over the last season, a 40% K rate for him. So I think that's a very strong pick by Ben. But I think Garrett Cole has a little bit easier today, where Bieber's facing a Chicago lineup that does have some power, does have some guys that avoid strikeouts. I think with Garrett Cole, though, he's getting the best possible situation against Detroit, where it is a little bit colder weather. He's going against a team with a 2.5 point implied run total for themselves. They also have 6 guys that strike out above league average, a 26% aggregate K rate. So even though Garrett Cole has not been as good of a strikeout guy as he was in Houston, he is still a very good strikeout pitcher who's in a better spot. So I think that's the one I would take the over of. And I guess, this didn't work out for Trevor Bauer yesterday. I've been talking about taking some of the bigger arms. Bauer at 8 innings didn't get to the strikeout prop number that we talked about on yesterday's show. So I think if you wanted to go a little bit cheaper, I also don't hate Pablo Lopez. His stuff has been much improved over the last season and change, up to a 26% K rate. He's facing a pretty mediocre Washington lineup that is not the same team without Juan Soto. So that'd be the lower odds one that I would take, but no unders really jumped out for me here. I think it's a lot of good arm talent, I think, for the MLB main slate.
Is there any relation to Justin?
Justin Lopez or Justin
Bieber?
Justin Lopez.
He's probably not. Similar though, he makes my heart flutter the same way with that strikeout rate. That's really the main thing for old Shane.
All right. And now for the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day. It's time for the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day with Dr. Ben now at 14-5 after Ben took Rashawn Slater and he slid to 13th overall in the overall pick last night. So did you learn anything from the experience of NFL draft betting, Benjamin? I don't know why I call you Benjamin, by the way.
I learned that the Bengals, as usual, did just so dumb. I root for Joe Burrow. You better enjoy his season because he's probably not going to have one after this because they've got no one to protect him. And if they would have took Penny Sewell, the Panthers or the Lions clearly would have taken Slater as it should have unfolded, but they didn't. They screwed Spags with Chase. They screwed me with Sewell. That was tilting, but you know what? That's the nature of the draft. You have to live with that. I did not analyze that right, and you take a loss.
All right. Yeah. Pick yourself up when you fall down. I like it.
That's what we're going to try to do.
Well, hopefully you've learned your lesson from dabbling in NFL draft betting, Dr. Ben, because the people are in desperate need of a winner here. Even my camera and microphone apparently refuse to work properly on shows where you don't provide winners, Dr. Ben. It's that crucial for all of us, the show and really the fate of the world that you get today's picks right. So with all of that in mind and our destiny as a society resting on your next words, what is Dr. Ben Rasa's prop bet of the day? No pressure.
So, looking to bounce back, there's a lot of props that I probably should have went to, but I only get to do this literally once a year. I'm going off the race. I'm picking the Kentucky Oaks winner. That race starts in an hour. It's the girl version of the Kentucky Derby. So obviously this is going to be much harder because the favorite, just to give you some vantage point, is still 2.5 to 1 right now. So you're trying to cash like a plus 250. But you know what? We're going to take the risk. It's Friday. We're feeling good. We're going to go to it. And I do like the favorite in the race, Malathat. She's unbeaten. She's 5 for 5. You've got Velasquez aboard, Pletcher training. Spags will tell you how important that is. We've got a Curlin bred here. And this is a horse she's going to be stalking. She'll come from the back. I do think, if you're looking at this race, that Travel Column and a couple other horses will set a pretty good pace. And just for people who may not know horse racing a ton, if your horse is in the back, what you want is, several horses to run really fast at the beginning and tire themselves out like a race. And then your horse kind of just comes and has a lot left and blows past them. So I think that's what we're going to get here. And Malathat in the last race did what she needed to do. And I think she does it here. So she's 2.5 to 1, as Spags talked about before. Those odds in the next hour can and will change, but I think she'll be about that. Maybe you get 2, maybe you get 3. I'm going to try to go for the Kentucky Oaks winner here. So we'll be back to NBA props soon enough. We've got plenty of those, but only once a year do you get to bet the Kentucky Oaks, and that's today. We're going with the 10-horse Malathat.
And we are a lady helmed show, so I think it's important we support women's sports as much as we can, support the ladies. And Malathat, to me, my favorite female horse I've heard of and learned the name of within the last hour for sure by a wide margin. And I think that pick to me would be the cosign of all cosigns. So I'm riding along with Dr. Ben today and go all. So all the lady horses out there watching this show, I hope you have a great run this weekend. I love the show BoJack Horseman. I think there's a lot of great things going on in the horse community, and I support it.
So Ben, what are some of the other female names
in this race or in life? I got you
well,
can't.
Where I'm aware of Black Beauty.
Yeah, well, we got it's my camera doesn't show it, but one of the pictures I have right above me is of Zenyatta, who is a super famous female horse. She is great. But in this race, you've got Coach, you've got Search Results, Moraz, Travel Column, Past the Champagne. That's a decent name.
Love it.
Paulina's Pearl. It's a pretty weak field. We got to step our names up as a whole in the horsing community. You need some better, more creative names.
I agree.
Kayla, what would you name a horse? What would you name here? 2 names. What would you name a lady horse? And let's do this in a circle here because I think we're running a little fast. So what would you name a lady horse and what would you name your boy horse?
This is too hard. Sparkle.
Sparkle.
Okay, Sparkle the girl horse. Love it.
Something gold glitter related. And then a guy horse. I don't know. You can't put me on the spot like this. Like this takes a lot of time and creativity and thinking because it can't just be something simple. It's got to be like elaborate or something that doesn't even really make sense. You go. I don't know. I need to think.
Ben, I feel like you've probably thought about this before, so I'll let you go before I get mine.
One of these days, Griot isn't going to get cut, and I'm going to just win all the money on DraftKings and golf. And when I do, I'm going to buy a horse. His name would be Jazz Raz, obviously.
That's not fair. That's your Twitter handle.
That's why I would name the horse after it. It's pretty easy. Yeah. You could have named the horse Kayla Knierim. There you go. Go with your Twitter handle. That's the easy cop out. For a girl horse, I'd probably name it Mayday. I think that would be where I'd go. Certainly, if I get one horse, it'll be the boy horse, Jazz Raz. That's the priority.
I think my girl horse would be Miss Pac-Man. I've always enjoyed that. One of my better video game efforts as well. If anybody wants to challenge me on the Miss Pac-Man streets, you know where to find me. And I would say for a boy horse, I think Ben kind of ruined the joke, but for a boy horse, Eric Lindquist.
That's a good name.
It's good.
For the girl horse, you could have went full twist of the knife for him, but
say what you want about our Eric Lindquist, but he's a winner. And I think horse Eric Lindquist, now there's one that I can really set my watch to.
I changed my mind for the girl horse. I want it to be Lady Di.
Oh, okay. That's cute. That's a dignified horse there. If you're like that lady.
Classy
name. Yes. Still undecided on a boy name. I don't know. That will take some more thought.
Keep thinking about it. We got time. I'm pretty sure.
Something alcohol related, maybe that seems to work. I don't know. Oh, I did. Guys, I started Yellowstone this week. So now maybe something Yellowstone related.
I've not watched that, but Yogi Bear would be a good boy horse name too.
Yogi Bear. Okay.
Oh, that was Jellystone though. So that's a fictional version of Yellowstone. Oh, there goes Kayla. Down goes Kayla again. 2 knockouts in the show.
This time it was the camera.
It's not a good sign for Mel.
It's probably going to do it again. Let's move on, shall we?
Jordan in the chat saying Eric Lindquestrian. that's pretty good.
See, that's good stuff.
Okay. Oh, it's like we're playing peekaboo.
We're gonna have to call in the relief pitcher, Spags. You might have to read our no house advantage props.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. No house advantage. I think we can go back to that as well. Kayla, what do you think? Do you want to go back to no house advantage, do some prop or not?
Thank you. Yes. Also, it's around the 45-minute mark. Ugh.
Maybe the camera overheat. Maybe you got a hot camera.
Is it like is it just tired? I don't know. Okay, yes.
That's how I feel when I do 45 minutes of work. just shut down immediately and give up on the day.
For the love.
One of our classic tip-off bits. So glad we have recurring jokes. Dr. Ben making fun of Eric and Kayla's camera shutting off.
Yeah, we've crafted a true show here.
I want to cry. I really do. It's so frustrating, you guys. I'm sorry. This is very unprofessional. Let's get to our no house advantage prop or not. Here are the props of the day for key players. Do you like the over or under on them? And how many points would you assign? First up, we've got Chris Middleton over under 22.5 points plus rebound Spags.
So this is one that right now actually does look like a pretty decent over according to Awesemo. And I know some people in the chat were confused by Giannis being in the Awesemo projections. And that's because normally they're erring on the side of caution until you get the official news that a guy's out. So when that updates, I think this bet's going to get even better, assuming that Giannis does miss the game. And we won't know that quite yet, but I think this is a prop right now that looks pretty good. I'm expecting we're not going to have to wait forever on the Giannis news. So this is a prop that to me right now, assuming that Giannis somehow gets to the lineup, it looks like a 5 or 6 pointer. But then if Giannis does end up sitting, it's an easy 10 pointer, maybe a 9 pointer, I guess, depending upon some of these other weird bets that we're going to have, one of which we'll talk about that makes no sense at all. But I think really this prop right now looks solid, and it'll look even more solid if we do get Giannis out.
Yeah, I think you're looking at maybe a slight lean to the over if we didn't know where Giannis played, and I think possibly when Giannis sits. Once we get confirmation of that, this line is going to jump a ton in the betting market on no house advantage. I say it every Thursday and Friday when I'm on the show. They can't adjust. So that's where the value comes in. You're going to put that towards the top. One of the easiest ones on the day if Giannis sits.
Okay, next we've got Evan Fournier over under 16.5 points plus rebounds, Ben.
So this is another one that, again, I think you're going to look towards the over here. It's a simple situation that, well, you didn't like what Prestige. I had to say, but we've got this projected just north of 20, and I think the markets are going to confirm that. And when you've got those situations and you're talking about several points here, you got this north of 75% per Alex's projections on the over. So I'll be honest, if Giannis sits, I think I'm a little more confident in Middleton just because I trust the Bucks a little more and the rotations and whatnot. I have a tough feel on Fournier in general. We've seen some really erratic games from him. So I think the range of outcomes is big, but it's still going to be the over.
Yeah, I think Fournier, to me, this one does seem like an over according to Awesemo, and I would agree that it's an over. I think the one way I would consider taking the under would just be not having the most faith in Fournier. It's a better spot for him not having Kemba Walker in there. Obviously, that's going to make it an easier prop to get to. But I do feel like if you're playing a lot of Fournier today on FanDuel, where he is going to be a popular play, not a play that I have the greatest confidence levels in, because you do have Tatum in there, you do have Brown in there still, and you do have Marcus Smart back in. So even what we saw last game might not be the best possible outcome for Fournier with Smart being back in. But I do think, if you're taking the overs, or you're playing them a lot rather on FanDuel, I wouldn't mind taking the under on no house advantage. It is one that is skewing on the over right now. But I do think if you have enough Fournier exposure elsewhere, then maybe you could salvage a night by getting the under here on no house advantage. That's one of those hedge plays that we talk about sometimes on the show that I think could pay off. So if you're playing Fournier on FanDuel, take the under. If you're not playing him on FanDuel, then just take the over on no house advantages, maybe a 7 or 6 pointer.
This Geek Squad appointment can't come soon enough. All right. James Ennis over under 12.5 points plus rebounds plus assists, Spags.
James Ennis looks like a pretty solid play right here. I also did enjoy, Kayla, you calling him James Enos. I feel like I'll spare us anything else said about that. But I mean, the YouTube chat, feel free to chime in with your classy takes, I'm sure. But I do think that James Ennis is one of those guys benefiting right now from the lack of Terrence Ross. He's going to be somebody that is not the most productive guy, but on a projection level, like for DFS, you don't want to play him today at his price point. But he does, to me, have about a 10.3 point projection, 4.7 rebounds. So like he's already where he needs to be. It's just a low line, and this is currently Awesemo's highest confidence pick on no house advantage. So a lot of people don't start the day thinking about James Ennis or James Enos, no matter what way you want to say it or spell it. And I would say that James Ennis on no house advantage, much better play than he will be anywhere else today.
No doubt about it. I mean, I think the thing to point out, you go to OddsShopper right now and you look at his points, it's over under 9.5. And it's slightly, it's basically a toss up right there. So if he comes close to that, he doesn't need to do much else. And when you look at his stats, obviously he's not filling it up completely, but he's doing enough in the peripherals to easily get you there if he hits even remotely close to that point prop total. So this is a situation, they're just awful. First of all, they're 13, 14-point dogs on the road, but it doesn't matter. He's going to get opportunities. And this one, I'll be honest, never would have thought about it. And this is the power of the projections and why you should use these to assist you, because there's so many props out there. You just don't have time to sort through them all. They do that for you. And that's one you identify quickly as maybe the best one of the entire thing, could be your 10-pointer. And I think for people who are not using the projections, you probably don't even put this on your card because you don't even notice it.
What a time. And friends, don't forget to play on No House Advantage, our sponsor who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a first match deposit bonus of up to $20 for new signups. Beat your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. That'll lead us right into good dog, bad dog. I don't know. Do we have sound effects today or no?
Apparently the dogs are coming.
That's my dog soundboard.
Doesn't sound like a healthy dog. All right. In real life, there is no such thing as a bad dog in betting. In DFS, there are a lot of underdogs who may have no chance in their game. So who's a good dog to target tonight and who's a bad one? Spags, give us your good dog.
The good dog for me is, I think, going to be Atlanta. And this is sort of on the chance here that we do get Trae Young in. I think this line is sort of right now priced for the questionable nature of Trae Young, and I think that's certainly a fair one. But it is a 9-point spread, and I think if Trae Young gets rolled in, this game becomes a lot more competitive. You also have Clint Capela questionable, so there are some ways that this one could break poorly, but I think there is a decent possibility of getting these guys back into the lineup today, and if that is the case, it's just a missed price on the line right now that reflects these guys being out. So I think taking that one right now as a contingency good dog would be my pick.
Yeah, I don't think them winning the game, I think, is a little far-fetched. They're sitting as a 10-point dog, but I think they can cover this number. And I would piggyback on that. If you're looking for more of a dog in the outright market, obviously you're not going to get even close to the number on the Hawks, which is north of plus 400 in the money line. But I think the Nets at home can hold serve, even with the personnel. Kyrie obviously can handle it. They've got enough. And the Blazers, I respect them. They're a fine team, but 241.5 total. Obviously, the Nets want to play up and down. This is the type of game I think it can be back and forth. So a couple points there. If you don't take them, you're going to get in that plus 125, plus 130 range potentially. If you want a slight dog at home to hold serve, I think the Nets can do it.
And Ben, your bad dog would be?
So I like this bet more than what I just said for the Nets. I don't see the Jazz going into Phoenix and winning here. Phoenix had a really tough long road stretch there. They were on the East Coast for a while. They played 5 straight games, some tough teams in there. The Nets handled them, a couple others. They come home here. They get a Jazz team that we've talked about missing key guys. And although Clarkson, I think, can play very well tonight, the full power of the Suns, I think, will be displayed. So they're 4.5 point favorite. I think they win this game pretty comfortably tonight at home, and Utah just not enough on the road here.
Yeah, I think my bad dog is going to be Cleveland. It's going to be Cleveland for me, just because I think that Russell Westbrook didn't have a great game last time out against Cleveland. And I think Russell Westbrook is a man right now who has been on a mission and is capable of reminding himself of these perceived slights or underperformances. And I do think Cleveland today, especially if they get Sexton back in, like I think people view that as an additive, but I think he's actually going to make it worse because Darius Garland's going to be less effective. And then you have a little bit of more inefficiency just in your line because Sexton shoots the ball a lot. So I think taking them as a bad dog today, Washington, I think steamrolls them today.
And Spags, what does your make or break player or game currently look like to you on tonight's slate?
I think for me, it's going to be Alize Johnson. I really think there's a lot of ways here you can pay off that price point, and $3K on DraftKings on this slate, barring some other amazing value opening up. It seems like a really valuable currency to have to build the lineups you want. So I think getting a good amount of Alize Johnson will be my approach today. Guy's been about a 1.35 fancy point per minute guy. I have him being about as efficient today, 1.4, so a little more than usual. So in this spot for Alize Johnson, I think as a minimum salary guy, it's rare to get a minimum salary guy who's actually produced this well in a decent sample size of time.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I think the Nets in general are going to be very, very important, whether you take the value with Johnson or if you use whatever you do with Kyrie is going to be somewhat polarizing. Obviously, if you play him and he really busts, although you're not going to be alone in your misery, there's going to be a lot of people that don't. If you pivot off him and you survive that in tournaments and whatnot, particularly in small fields, you may have a serious advantage. So I think getting that right one way or another is going to unlock a lot of potential. I mean, for me personally, of course, hitting every time I say Malathat, you leave. So this is a bad sign for this horse. I really hope, not only am I worried about her not winning, she may be injured on the track at this rate. So let's just hope that my Kentucky Oaks horse runs better than Kayla's Camera here, and we'll see what we can do.
Let's hope. Oh my gosh. Ben, give us your fade of the day.
My fade of the day, honestly, it's nothing against him. He's been fantastic. I just don't see myself looking for 11K Westbrook, and there's nothing I can point to. They're playing great and everything. I just think the way this slate is unfolded, that I would rather go elsewhere, whether you're getting Vooch, whether you're getting Kyrie and a couple other guys, even Embiid. So Westbrook, I think if you're looking at cash, whatnot, high floor, but some of it, particularly in the prop world as well, I've been shorting his rebounds and assists. And although he's a walking triple double, it's not getting there every time in terms of 12.5, 13.5, things in that number. So I feel okay about taking some positions against Westbrook, despite how impressive he's been.
And I think my fade of the day, besides Kayla's Camera, will be Thaddeus Young. I don't get the ownership projected for him on our current ownership projections. Maybe that'll change here. And it sometimes is a case where in the early ownership runs that a guy is in there because he does, sort of represent what the best possible lineup construction is, and he won't kill you. And I think maybe that's what Thad Young is. But if he somehow ends up 28% owned just because he fits well on an optimizer, I think that is not a great play. He's been productive, but the ceiling is not there the most. There's really no reason, I guess, unless you got Vooch out or something weird here, that he would be a priority play. So a chalky player who just is kind of going to do what he normally does and is priced for his appropriate role. I don't see that being a guy that I would like to have a lot of today.
All right. This is the longest hour of my life. But Spags and Ben, you both were great. Always fun doing a show with you guys. Thank you all for tuning in. That's going to do it for us today on the tip-off. Happy Kentucky Derby, everybody.
Enjoy.
Bet those horses. Don't forget to like button and subscribe. The NBA Deeper Dive and Live Before Lock are coming your way next. We'll be back with you next week on the tip-off at 4 p.m. Eastern. Have a great weekend. Hopefully my camera doesn't turn off then.
There it is.
The Giants, man. Oh, I was watching countless videos of Giants fans going, Eagles are such a scumbag organization. Oh, what weasels. I hate them. And the Cowboys are cowards for trading in their division. Made me real happy.
And then the Giants took like Percy Harvin Jr.
Yeah, people were not stuck. Apparently they really wanted Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. They were picking at 20.
What? Yeah, they traded from 11 down to 20.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they traded back. Okay.
But they only did that because the Eagles jumped them from 12 to 10 and took Smith.
Okay, got it.
You guys are, listen, you got a nice haul from that Bears pick for sure. But I'd have told Danny Dimes to kick rocks and I'd have grabbed Fields. Such a bad division that we're playing in, though. I mean, it's NFC East is so bad.
Yeah, it has one good team.
They're not good.
They're good.
I'm never giving it to you until I'm never going to give you that until they give me back-to-back good season.
That defense is going to be so good.
They have a very good defense.
And the offense has playmakers everywhere. It's just a matter of can Fitzpatrick be decent.
Who are these playmakers you speak of?
McLaurin, Gibson.
Well, outside of McLaurin, yeah. Gibson's a good player. But everywhere?
I feel like I'm forgetting somebody too. Samuel.
Yeah, he's a nice gadget player.
Yeah, like he fits really well on that team. Logan Thomas is a freak at tight end.
Yeah, they're actually not bad. It really all depends if the quarterback can consistently get on the ball.
Yeah, he can't be worse than Alex Smith was last year.
Why don't they just start Fitzpatrick out of the gate? That'd be awesome.
That's what I assume they're going to do, right?
I haven't seen any confirmation on that yet. No.
Yeah, I mean that's my assumption. Yeah, if they start what's his name? Like I feel completely differently. Yeah.
Taylor Heineke. Yeah, I haven't seen any confirmation. I've seen actually leans both ways. So.
Yeah, I hadn't even looked. I just assumed it was Fitzpatrick.
Well, I'm a huge Fitzpatrick fan. So if that's the case, then I'm on board.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, are you kidding me? I love Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It makes a lot more sense now because you keep saying like shit about their quarterback, and I'm just like, what's wrong with Fitzpatrick?
No, I love Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, if you're talking about Heineke, I agree.
Dude, he is. I don't know how anyone couldn't like that guy.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Grant, he's gonna have. Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. I'm Dave Loughran on Twitter at Lafay_D, joined by Adam Scherer at ShipMyMoney DFS. Adam, I didn't have the strategy show today, so I started doing research and I looked at some of these lines before I looked at any of the injury news, right? Before any of that, I look at the lines and I think to myself, all right, well, looks like countless good players are going to be ruled out tonight because every line was flipped the opposite direction of what it would be in the event that those teams were healthy.
Yeah, a lot of injury news tonight. A lot of teams shorthanded.
We're happy to have you guys with us. As always, it was a good night last night. Finally, for the 2018 World Champion Philadelphia Eagles. Finally, Howie Roseman making moves that didn't make me want to pull my hair out. And here we are, man. It's going to be a fun football season. Got some Devontae Smith on the Philadelphia Eagles. Pissed off Giants fans. I can't ask for more than that, Adam.
Yeah, it should be fun. Probably a one-team race in the NFC East, like we were saying before the show started. But Devontae Smith will be fun to watch at least.
Let me tell you this much, right? We're going to dive in. I'll tell you this much. Every year, the team that is expected to be the best in the NFC East is usually the worst. And the team that's expected to be the worst is usually the best. The Eagles Super Bowl year, they were expected to be shit. And then they went on and then the years they were supposed to be amazing, right? They were top 3 in the power rankings. This team's winning it again. They sucked. So don't get your hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a 5 or 6 year run in the NFC East where the team that finished last finished first the following season.
It's crazy. Yeah, it happens all the time. So we'll see. Should be fun. Hit that thumbs up for us as we get started. We got a lot to dive into. Subscribe to the channel as well if you haven't done so yet. If you don't want to put on notifications, that's fine, but it helps as well. So you know when we always go live. We got all sports on deck throughout the week: MMA, UFC, NASCAR, PGA, basketball, baseball, everything. Even pumping out some football content coming up soon. So thumbs up, subscribe. Let's dive into this one. Atlanta and Philadelphia. Oh, no, actually, first thoughts on this as always. Are we going stars and scrubs? Are we going balanced? Your general overview of the slate after writing the deep dive, totally free, by the way, at Awesemo.com.
I assume it'll end up being it's kind of weird because like there's good plays to pay up for, but then there's also those upper mid-range guys. Assuming Giannis doesn't play, you have Holiday and Middleton looking really good. You have Kyrie without Durant or Harden. So I think it kind of always ends up being stars and scrubby this time of year, but I think that there's a really strong mid-range as well.
Atlanta and Philadelphia, the Atlanta Hawks. We have some questionable pieces here today, which is going to play pretty heavily into what we do. Trae Young, Clint Capela, Bogdan Bogdanovic. So 3 of their primary starters are hit with the Q tag right now. How do we approach a team like this where we know Herter's out, we know DeAndre Hunter isn't back yet, all of that, fine. But what are you doing with them right now? Are you just saying, you know what, it's a 7 p.m. lock. It's an island game on that 7 p.m. spot, and I'll just wait and find out what happens? Or have you put in place contingency plans? Or are you just saying, even if they play, I don't really want to roster them anyway?
Kind of all of the above, I think. For now, I'm assuming that the questionable guys play. I'm not too concerned about it because, like you said, it is a 7 o'clock island game. I expect I'll have plenty of time to adjust stuff, beforehand. If everybody's in, I think it's a pretty unappealing spot. Like you have some guys priced up like Bogdanovic because of Trae Young being out previously. It's a tough matchup here with Philadelphia. There's nothing that really stands out to me if all the questionable guys are in. So it's more so, if we get that news that Capela is going to sit, do you get a Kongwu back in the starting lineup to get abused by Joel Embiid, but still be a 3K center a 4K center that's starting? Does Trae Young sit and you can go back to Lou Williams, for example. So if guys are out, I think you get some reasonable options from Atlanta. But if the questionable guys are in, I really don't have much interest.
All right, so let's walk through this for a second. If Trae Young and Bogdanovic both sit again, we've seen this situation where Lou Williams, as a matter of fact, Adam, this was the same exact matchup last game. They got rolled by the 76ers. I think they lost by like 44 points or something like that. It was a monster blowout in Philadelphia. These are back-to-back games at the Wells Fargo Center. Lou Williams, however, only shot 7 times, but played 31 minutes despite a 40-plus point blowout. Meanwhile, guys like Brandon Goodwin played 32 minutes and was absolute garbage from a fantasy perspective, averaged right around a third of a fantasy point per minute. So let's just put a contingency plan in place here. If both of these guys sit, can we go back to either of them or anybody else in this front backcourt?
Yeah, I think you can. I don't know that they would necessarily be priorities because it is still a tough matchup with Philly. There are still so many really, really good options you can feel good about on the slate. But, 4,500 for Brandon Goodwin, if you're going to get around 30 minutes from him, like if Young is out and if Bogdanovic is out, you're probably getting around 30 minutes from Goodwin. It's not really exciting, but he's around a 0.75 to 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy that should play 28 to 30 minutes. Lou Williams, will go out there and chuck up shots. At 5,200, he's a reasonable option. Again, not a great matchup, but they need somebody to score. So, I think if all those guys are out, you can definitely look to Williams and to a lesser extent to Goodwin.
Man, I wish Jackie says if Lockie was selling insurance, my Graham would definitely buy it. No, I would never do that. Actually, as a matter of fact, nothing pisses me off more than those, those like Social Security scams and shit, but they always target the old people. You ever get one of them?
I mean, I've never gotten one of them, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Justine got one. She's not very old, but she got one of those Social Security scams, and they called up, and I checked the number. You know how you can spoof numbers now, right? So I checked the number online, and it pulls up the Social Security office in like San Antonio, Texas. I'm thinking that's not right. So then I just go on to screw with the guy for an hour or so because I was off that day. But no, I would never sell insurance to your grandma. Unless it was great insurance. Weren't you an insurance salesman?
Yeah, for a good 3 months before law school.
How'd you do?
I was good at it. I hated it, but I was good at it.
You sell to a lot of old people and just kind of give them crap?
It was mostly like middle-aged people.
Was it life insurance?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So just people preparing to die down the line. Got you. What are you doing with the Philadelphia 76ers today? The team is completely healthy for what feels like the first time in a while.
Yeah, it's a spot where, normally I'm not that interested in the Sixers when everyone's healthy, with the exception of Embiid. Obviously, we're always interested in Embiid, but the pricing actually looks pretty decent here. Tobias Harris, only 7,100 on DraftKings, 6,900 on Fanduel. I think is a very reasonable price tag. Even Ben Simmons at 7,500 on DraftKings is fine. Wouldn't call him a priority by any stretch, but I think it's a little bit cheaper price tag than you normally get, 7,400 on FanDuel as well. And then you have Embiid, who should be easier to get to on this slate than he normally is because you don't have Jokic, you don't have Towns, you don't have all these centers at the top for him to compete with. He's averaged just shy of 1.6 DraftKings points per minute when he's played with Simmons and Harris this year. The only real issue with Embiid is that when you compare him to some of the other high-priced guys, like when you compare him to Russell Westbrook, on average, he's going to play 4 or 5 fewer minutes per game. Kind of the same with Irving. You're probably getting like 2 or 3 less minutes. So from that standpoint, it can be kind of difficult to prioritize Embiid. But overall, I think it'll be a little bit easier to get him into lineups tonight than it normally is.
How much do we have to worry about blowouts on this slate in general?
I'm not overly concerned about it. Like, I think there's, other than the Lakers and Kings game, there's not, and I guess to some extent the Memphis game, there's not really any one game that I'm too concerned about.
Okay. Outside of Joel Embiid, is it just tough to get anywhere on these guys? Ben Simmons, 7,500. Josh, I told you, man, he'll be at 5,900 on FanDuel in no time, bro. What's he at now? 74. Okay. He'll get there. We're pacing our way to that. Last game, he got in foul trouble, only played 16 minutes. He had a really solid game from an efficiency standpoint, but would Joel Embiid be the one guy here that stands out at all to you?
Yeah, Embiid's the one that stands out, but I think Simmons is fine. I think Tobias Harris is a pretty good play. Like Harris, when you look at similarly priced players to him, he's around a 1.08 DraftKings points per minute guy when he plays with Embiid and with Simmons. But when you look at similarly priced guys on DraftKings, like we'll talk about Jordan Clarkson and Joe Ingles, for example, similar production from them. So I think Harris is kind of someone that might just fit pretty easily into some lineups.
All right. Some of these comments are hilarious, fellas. Keep them coming. I'm thoroughly appreciating them. Let's talk about San Antonio and Boston. The Spurs on the road coming into this one as 4.5 point dogs, 221.5 total. The really only thing we have here, Derek White done for the year. So when I look at San Antonio today, they're a team that I think you and I have talked kind of extensively about throughout the season, that they've all kind of been priced at a spot where once in a while we'll get to them, but they're not priority plays most of the time. It feels like DeJounte Murray is one of those guys that we can lean on at that mid-range price point because he does have the ceiling. But I don't know if we would consider anyone a priority on San Antonio tonight.
I wouldn't, just because, like we said at the top, you have that really strong mid-range, and there are some guys on shorthanded teams where they're missing their number one scorer, or most likely to be missing their number one scorer. So of course DeRozan has a high ceiling. We know DeJounte Murray can go out there and put up monster games, and both of these guys are likely to play 34 or 35 minutes if this game is competitive. But it's just still really, really difficult to put them ahead of some of the other guys that we'll talk about on this slate. So, no issues using them as relatively low-owned pieces in tournaments because of their upside, but they're not guys that I'm building around.
Okay. Like anyone on the Spurs?
Yeah, anyone on the Spurs. Specifically Murray and DeRozan, I think, are the two I'd be most likely to get to. But yeah, I don't see myself really building around anyone on the Spurs. Like one spot to keep an eye on, you did get the start from Devin Vassell last game, and he played 25 minutes. He's only 3,100 on DraftKings. I think there's going to be better value, but that is a spot where he had virtually no ownership last slate. I assume it'll be a little bit higher today just because people are expecting him to start, and last slate it was unexpected. But that's a spot where you can take some shots, but I still don't really feel that good about it.
With Kemba Walker out on the other side of this game with that oblique injury, it makes things a little bit interesting, but I'm curious to know where you weigh in on some of these price points, like Peyton Pritchard, Evan Fournier is back, Marcus Smart's just shy of $7,000. And then the big shocker to a lot of people last time with all of the injuries and Kemba out was Tremont Waters got the start, played 25 minutes in the starting lineup. So do we really have any idea what Brad Stevens is going to do here?
My guess is that you get Smart, Fournier, Brown, Tatum, Thompson. You certainly could get Robert Williams back instead of Tristan Thompson, but Williams came off the bench last game. So I'm assuming that that's the starting lineup. I'm assuming Tremont Waters goes back to either not playing or playing a minimal role. Jaylen Brown and Tatum, of course, are the first two places to look. But like you said, they are priced up. Tatum's 9,400 on Fanduel, which looks a little bit better than 9,800 on DraftKings. But, 8,800 for Brown on DraftKings, 8,500 on Fanduel. They're both, I think, they're fine. Like, they both benefit from Kemba being out. Tatum's about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute when he's played with Brown and without Kemba this year. Brown's at about a little over 1.2 fantasy points per minute with almost a 31% usage rate. So it's another spot where, I think they're good plays. I just don't really know how I play them ahead of some other guys. Like, how do I play Jason Tatum ahead of Kyrie Irving? Unless it's, purely for ownership reasons, which is fine. But, like, they don't project that similarly. Jaylen Brown, more expensive than Chris Middleton, for example. Not going to project that similarly. So it's going to be really difficult, I think, to really prioritize the Boston guys.
Okay. Jaylen Brown on FanDuel is getting the most ownership. On DraftKings, they're pretty much just bottomed out across the board. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Evan Fournier, all of them on FanDuel are getting a little bit of love, right around that 20% mark. So I guess that's what you're saying. That's where they should be. You're perfectly fine with them, but you're not prioritizing Boston at all.
Yeah, and I think on FanDuel it is just a lot easier to get there.
Sure. All right, then let's actually take a look at this next game. Talk about your Washington Wizards here against Cleveland. The Wizards are 6.5-point favorites, 229 total. Russell Westbrook, the fella gets it done day in and day out, coming off another huge 18, 18, and 14 game. He's now played 42 and 41 minutes over his last two. As a matter of fact, that Spurs game was an overtime game, but 41 minutes against the Lakers. The minutes are huge, Adam. The triple doubles are more than consistent, seemingly every single game, save for one out of his last, 10? He had 9 assists in one of them. So he had 8 out of his last 10. And the one that he missed was 36, 15, and 9. So we'll take that all day long. He just gives you such a high floor because even if he's not scoring, he's getting it done other ways. And maybe he doesn't have the same rebound and assist totals, but on those games, he's usually scoring a lot of points. It's just so tough to get away from someone like this, especially against Cleveland.
Yeah, it's almost a cheat code at this point because the sites clearly don't want to make a Russell Westbrook only pricing tier. And he's just the combination of production and minutes that you get from him is just, phenomenal, especially on DraftKings where you're not hurt by the turnovers. You get the triple double bonus. He's triple doubled in 8 of his last 10 games. Like you said, he scored at least 60 DraftKings points in 7 of his last 10. The only game in his last 10 where he scored less than 56 was against this Cleveland team 5 days ago, where he only had 5 rebounds. That's just something that you're not going to see happen very often at all from Westbrook. Over the last month, he's second in minutes per game. He's first in assists per game. He's third in rebounds per game. It's just ridiculous numbers. It's not it's not a fast-paced Cleveland team. It's not the most appealing matchup in that regard, but it's just really impossible for me not to like Westbrook every time he plays, and today's no different.
It's not different at all. Yeah. Who would you say was the last player to have an exclusive pricing tier on DraftKings for basketball?
Westbrook on the Thunder without Durant.
You think that's the last one?
That's the last one I remember.
Because in baseball, you get it kind of often. Like non-Coors games, it's usually going to be Mike Trout or something, But
Yeah.
with basketball, I can't remember the last one. I remember when FanDuel had a capped salary and LeBron was just 9,900 every game, but he couldn't go past 9,900.
Yeah, that's almost what it feels like with Westbrook here. Like
11K,
it's like we don't want to make him 12-5, so we're just going to accept that he's 40% owned at 11K every day.
It's funny you say that, though. 11K, 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 10-9, 11K, 10-9, 11-11, 10-9, 11-1, 11K. He's hovered in that $200 price range, pretty much $100 price range for the past month.
Yeah. And it's kind of frustrating because, on the one hand, it's nice because, it's fun to roster Russell Westbrook. He's obviously pretty, consistent scorer. It makes a lot of fun. But at the same time, like when you have someone that's that expensive, even though like we talk a lot, that the most expensive players are actually normally some of the most underpriced, like that top tier. But when you have someone like Westbrook that is as underpriced as he is, so consistently, it's like you're not supposed to be getting these guys at 40% owned and in a position where it's like, oh, well, I'm either putting myself in a 65-point hole or I'm playing the 40% owned 11K guy.
Alex Marziani's right. It wasn't Westbrook. It was James Harden.
Yep.
It was James Harden at like 13K plus.
Yeah. When Westbrook or Paul or whoever was out.
Yep. That's right. It was. And that was insane. Now, getting back to Washington, outside of Westbrook, Beal, Rui Hachimura, Raul Neto, Davis Bertans, just a bunch of names in there. Daniel Gafford, who did he posterize the other day? Was it Did you see that where he just absolutely? Who was it? It was
I don't remember. I remember. Like I know what you're talking.
Kuzma.
What'd you say?
Oh no, maybe it wasn't Kuzma. I don't know. He posterized someone on the Lakers.
I think Chandler Hutchison threw one down on Anthony Davis.
Did he?
It was either him or Rui. Someone threw one down on Anthony Davis. I know that.
Chat will let me know who it was. It was a nasty dunk from Daniel Gafford. I have no idea what his minutes are going to look like. He's played 15 and 13 minutes over the last two. Who outside of Westbrook appeals to you today, if anyone?
The normal, Daniel Gafford is capable of having a big game. I will point out, though, especially in larger field tournaments.
It was AD that he posterized.
What'd you say?
It was AD.
Okay, yeah, I knew it was Davis. I didn't realize it was Gafford that had.
Yeah, it was. Oh, someone saying Rui. If you go, there's a Gafford dunk. I'll find it. Go ahead. But
I'm pretty sure there were two really big dunks in the Wizards.
There were. But I'm telling you, Gafford had a nasty dunk in that very same game. You can go find it. But I'm assuming Rui is the one that got AD from what Chat's saying.
Yeah, that sounds right to me. On DraftKings at 3,300, I'm mildly interested in Alex Len here. I don't have a lot of confidence in his minutes, but he has played 23 and 24 in the last couple of games. He only played, when they played Cleveland earlier this week, he only played like a stint to open the first quarter and to open the third quarter. But I don't know that was really matchup dependent so much as it was just, Scott Brooks is really inconsistent. So at 3,300 for Alex Len, I think that's the spot you can roll the dice as long as he's going to be low, which I assume he will.
All right, let's keep it going. Then we got 5 games to get to once we close out the Cleveland side of this one. Colin Sexton questionable, Hartenstein's out, Dellavedova's out. I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to make right now. But what are you doing with the Colin Sexton pending news right now?
I'm assuming he's in. He went through shoot around. So until I hear otherwise, I have him in. Because
Darius Garland's $8K, which once you get up to that price point and Colin Sexton returns, you're going to have a tough time getting there. He's $7,800 on DraftKings. The only reason I mention this, though, is if it was against the Lakers or the Sixers or even the Celtics or something, it would kind of be a moot point. But this is against a Washington team that plays at the league's fastest pace. So do we get to some of these options? Do we pay for a $5,700 Kevin Love on FanDuel? Are there spots that we can take advantage of with this matchup tonight for Cleveland, or is it just kind of a dead zone?
I'm really interested in Kevin Love here. We only have him projected for 9% ownership on DraftKings. He played 35 minutes last game, and that's clearly the most he's played in a while. We had seen, some games where he was getting to 30. I'm not expecting that we get another 34 or 35 minutes here, but at least knowing it's possible is nice. And even if you got like 30 or 31 minutes at a pretty cheap price tag against the Wizards, I think that's a pretty good spot to go to. And then I'm really interested in Jared Allen again, 7,400 on DraftKings, 68 or 6,900 on FanDuel. In this matchup last time, he set a career high with 27 points. Not expecting him to do that again, but it's a spot where because of the pace of the game, he should be able to get, double-digit rebounds or at least close to it, and he should be able to score in the paint against the Wizards. So I think Jared Allen gives you a pretty high ceiling.
R. Cathelza asks, are you worried about Washington and Cavs on back-to-back? Well, Washington not on a back-to-back. I'm sorry. He must be talking about the front end of a back-to-back.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah, there's no. If we're considering that, then we're gonna have. It's just no, because you know why I don't worry about that. I'll tell you something, Adam. Even if there were some concerns about minutes, how do I know if Scott Brooks or Bickerstaff are going to rest him in the first or second game or not rest him at all?
Yeah, and the Wizards haven't been resting guys on back-to-backs recently. They're trying to get they're trying to get to the play-in game. Like they're looking to win games. Cleveland would be the team potentially resting guys. But like even then, we've seen, for example, Kevin Love normally playing 28 minutes or whatever in the first half, and then he's had a couple shortened rotations in the second half. Of back-to-backs, but on the front end, I'm not worried about it.
All right. Yeah, Kevin Love played 35 minutes last game, man. That does. Kevin Love at 6,500, 35 minutes last game, 6% ownership against Washington. Where do you think he should be?
So if I give him, here's the thing, and the reason that I'm interested in him is if I project him for 30 minutes, he looks like he's a good play. And, again, I don't think that he should be, when you're talking about medium projections, you can't just say, oh, he's going to play 34 minutes again. But if he played 34, he'd be one of the best plays on the slate probably. At this price point. So I am really interested, especially with the ownership as low as it is, because I think it's a situation where normally when you talk about players that are consistently in the starting lineup, at this point in the season, you have a very, very good idea of how many minutes they're going to play. There's not a whole lot of volatility outside of foul trouble and stuff like that. The fact that Love, maybe is just going to start playing more minutes now for whatever reason is kind of appealing to me.
I think so too. 5,700 is pretty insane too, if those minutes are even close to that. Let's talk about Portland and Phoenix. First, if you guys want to check out the free content we've got over at Awesemo.com, NBA player projections are free today and MLB player rankings. You can check them out before that. I assume 7:05 lock time, 7:10, whatever it is for MLB tonight. And the NBA player projections for 7 p.m. lock, both of them totally free for today at the site. They won't be tomorrow, Awesemo.com. And if you want to check out everything else we have to offer over there, go to Awesemo.com/join. Check out the tools. They are sweet. Ownership, player projections, top stack tool, the boomer bust tool with the optimal lineup percentage, the lineup builder, the fantasy cruncher add-on, all of our premium content built and used by Alex Baker, #1 ranked DFS player in the world. You know him as Awesemo. And when we do the Hall of Fame segment later in the show, you'll see lot of Awesemo avatars at the top recently. It's been very fun to see, very fun to brag about it on the shows as well for them, because they just keep coming in. And if you do decide to sign up, you want to check out what we have to offer, whether you want to do a weekly, a monthly, an annual, or even an express weekly for less than $4 a week, be sure to take advantage of our premium Slack chat. It's an awesome community, but also you have premium office hours where the top players from Awesemo are answering your questions, helping you become a better player in a far more intimate setting than the YouTube chat. All right, Adam, let's go to Portland and Brooklyn, where you've got the Blazers actually favored by 2.5, 241.5 total. Damian Lillard and Portland have just routed teams recently. They smoked Indy. They crushed Memphis. So they're riding high coming into Brooklyn, favored by 2.5. What do we do with Damian Lillard, whose price just keeps going down?
I really like him in tournaments. I mean, it should be a really high-scoring game. I think it's likely to be competitive. Right now projected for about 13% ownership on DraftKings, which I don't think is too high at all. It's another one where, like, you look and you're not going to be able to prioritize him over Kyrie Irving, for example. But he actually, to some extent, correlates positively with Irving, because if this game's competitive, if this game goes down to the wire, you're probably getting a ton of minutes from both guys. So I think it's a situation kind of similar to yesterday. Obviously it didn't work out yesterday, but like everyone was playing Kevin Durant and he was, 70 whatever percent owned. And nobody really ran it back with Malcolm Brogdon, who was only 8% owned. Only like 12% played Karis LeVert. Obviously, Brogdon got hurt. It didn't work out. But that was a spot that I always think is interesting when everyone's going to go to one team in a high-scoring game because there's a lot of value, like there is again tonight on Brooklyn. But they don't really go to the other side, even though, if this game does end up being really high-scoring, it's going to benefit guys like Lillard, McCollum, and Nurkic.
Yeah, I think it will too. I was looking over Damian Lillard's numbers, thinking, all right, maybe his assist totals. He's still averaging 12 potential assists over the last month. It's not like his usage in most spots has taken a huge hit. He's still jacking up double-digit threes in a lot of these games, getting to the line at a decent clip. Like, everything seems, from Lillard's standpoint, like it's not just bottomed out, but he hasn't had those games recently. What do you think it is?
Yeah, I mean, there's some bad shooting in there too. I mean, you go back over the last couple of games, blowout, so he didn't play his full minutes. But like against Memphis 3 games ago, 8 for 27 shooting, 8 for 22, 9 for 23. There's just been some bad shooting games in there.
Yeah, you're right. It is ugly, but if anyone can bring himself back to life in a spot like this, it's Damian Lillard. Hopefully it stays close. And we'll talk about Kyrie Irving on the other side in a second. But closing out Portland, anybody else here jump off the page at you or you think's viable in a good spot against the bad Brooklyn defense?
Yeah, I like McCollum and Nurkic too. I mean, kind of the same thing for McCollum as for Lillard, where I don't think he's like the best play at his price point or his position, but I do think he's a really good play here. And then Nurkic, I really like the idea of going back to him. He's been popular for a couple of games and burned people because of the blowouts, but there's no reason to think you're not getting 28 to 30 minutes from him if this game's competitive. I like the matchup here against Brooklyn's front court. You're either going to get an undersized front court or you're going to get DeAndre Jordan rejoining the lineup for Brooklyn. That's not someone I'm really too concerned about for Nurkic anyway. So I do really, really like Nurkic at center tonight.
So Woj just tweeted, LeBron James is in fact expected back tonight, Adam.
Yeah, saves me from going back to Anthony Davis.
Yeah, that's been rough. Porzingis yesterday.
Yeah.
Brogdon injury. It felt like everything unraveled within a 30-minute span.
Yeah, it was not a lot of fun.
No, it certainly wasn't.
And then Jokic just capped it all off with like his worst game in a month and a half.
I know. Yeah, but by that point though, it didn't really matter much for me anyway. I was like,
I had a team finish in like 87th on Draftkings with in the huge tournament with Jokic.
So a decent Jokic game.
Wasn't really happy about that one.
Yeah. On the Brooklyn side, no Harden, obviously, no Kevin Durant either. He's out just for rest purposes yesterday. Played 36 minutes. 36 minutes, had 64 DraftKings points. You know, it is funny, too, because after the first half, I'm thinking KD's just going to burn us. Like, it's not going to be good. He had a huge second half, Adam.
Yeah, he did. He started out, I wouldn't even say he started out slow. He just started out like at a pace where you wouldn't want to own him.
He was pacing like 45, 47 or something in the first half, which is okay.
Right. Like you were definitely looking at it like, man, I'd feel a lot better if I was the 25% of the field that didn't have this guy. But yeah, then he came through with the monster game.
42 and 10. Incredible game. Only 3 rebounds too, but he's sitting this one out. So now we get Kyrie Irving, whose price went from 10,100 when KD was out last time, now 9,400. So I guess DraftKings didn't preemptively price him up with the expectation that Kevin Durant would sit this one out on the second of a back-to-back. That brings Kyrie Irving back into the picture against a Portland team that has played well recently, but is also not particularly good defensively. And this game, at least as it appears on the surface, should stay very close. Irving ownership is huge right now for obvious reasons.
Yeah, deservedly so. I mean, there's enough value on this slate. There's more than enough value on the slate. You can get to him and plenty of other good pieces relatively easily. He's averaged 1.5 fantasy points per minute without Durant or Harden on the floor this year. Assist percentage over those minutes is like 41 and change. So, you know, getting a ton of assists, usage rates up around 33%. Even if you kind of like cut those rates back and like put them more in line with his season average numbers, like regress them a bit, you still end up getting well over a 50-point projection here for Kyrie at a cheap price tag, or relatively cheap price tag, in a matchup that I don't have any problem with.
Okay. We had a super chat asking last man in, Johnson or Wade, Fanduel GPP, Adam.
Which Johnson?
I'm assuming Alize Johnson. I'm assuming.
Yeah, Alize Johnson.
Jay Crowder's questionable. So,
well, there's also Tyler Johnson.
There's Tyler. Well,
but FanDuel.
But I'm assuming FanDuel. He's talking about a power forward,
right?
So.
Yeah. So if he's asking about Alize Johnson, then it's Alize Johnson.
Yeah, because he is power forward, $3,500, and then Dean Wade is $3,500. So yeah, it's got to be Alize Johnson.
Yeah. And so I mean, I guess may as well just touch on Alize Johnson now. He scares me a lot here because like it's just such a weird situation when you get these guys like 3,500 on FanDuel, 3K flat on DraftKings. The guy's averaging over 1.3 DraftKings points per minute this season. For his career, he's averaged 1.09 DraftKings points per minute. But like he's not even really in Brooklyn's rotation except for when he suddenly is and plays huge minutes. But even if you look at yesterday's game, like Joe Harris only played 24 minutes. So you had Alize Johnson benefit from Harris not playing his normal minutes. You had Deandre Jordan not in the rotation yesterday. And my guess is that you're going to get Deandre Jordan starting tonight. So there's ways where Alize Johnson just disappears. I don't think that's the most likely outcome because of how he played yesterday. Like it would be really weird to me if this guy goes out there, puts up 20 points, 21 rebounds in 32 minutes. And then when they're shorthanded again the next day, Steve Nash doesn't find some way to give him at least enough minutes to be good at minimum salary. So I still think Alize Johnson's a very good play. I think he's one of the better value options on the board because he's minimum salary. I just think it's worth pointing out that this guy's had good games before this year and still not solidified a constant rotation spot.
All right. So let me ask you this then. You talked about Joe Harris minutes. Giannis is out, for anybody wondering. Clint Capela is active. Trae Young, Bogdanovich, game time decision still. Let me ask you this. You mentioned Joe Harris saw limited minutes. Who would be affected most by Alize Johnson getting another, let's say, 25 plus minutes tonight?
I
think that allows us to actually get a gauge on whether or not those minutes are sustainable while these other guys are out.
Yeah, I mean, it could be several guys. Like you could take minutes from Jeff Green. For example, Green played 31 minutes yesterday. Harris played like 24. You could have Harris play 31 and Green play 25 or whatever. Blake Griffin only played like 14 minutes yesterday. That's kind of the thing. Like there are a bunch of different ways Johnson can get those minutes. The reason I'm just concerned is that, you know, like, does Blake Griffin play 14 minutes again? Does Joe Harris play 24 minutes again? Then you have to add in that DeAndre Jordan, I assume, is going to play minutes tonight. I think the most likely thing is that you get like around 20 minutes from Alize Johnson, which the way he produces and his price tag is fine. Obviously, there's the upside for more if he's playing well. It's just, I think it's at least important to point out the downside when you're talking about a bench guy that is in and out of the rotation. You know, he's obviously going to get ownership. He projects well if you assume he plays tonight. I think it's just, you know, worth noting that there's a lot of ways this rotation can go that, you know, kind of hurts him.
All right, then, you know, we talked at length yesterday about good old Mike James, and that went about as bad as you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, he got the minutes.
He played 25 minutes, and he shot wonderfully. I mean, he shot – in some worlds, it's perfect. Like, you know, a top shot where it's like 10,000 out of 10,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the last one. I guess 0 for 7's got to be good for something, right?
Yeah, he was also in that Jokic lineup I was talking about. So not real happy with him either. But I don't think it should be as much of an issue today since Kyrie is back. I'm assuming that James, you know, plays fewer minutes and doesn't end up being as useful an option.
You would think so, because you still have Tyler Johnson as well. So
right,
they're not that bare in the backcourt.
Right, and it's tough to gauge. Like if you go and look, a week ago you had a game where Durant was out and Kyrie was in, and you got about 20 minutes from Mike James, but Tyler Johnson didn't play that game. Like Tyler Johnson was out. It wasn't a DMPCD. He was on the injury report and didn't play. So I'm assuming that Johnson and James both play. I'm assuming Johnson plays more minutes than James. And I'm assuming unless he's shooting the lights out, James doesn't end up really being useful in DFS.
Do you think Landry Shaman has any value today?
Yeah, I think he's underpriced on DraftKings. I was surprised when I saw that salary. He's got an 18.5% usage rate with Kyrie on the floor without Durant or Harden this year. I'm assuming you get around 30 minutes from Shamet. I think, you know, you're never going to be excited about Landry Shamet, but this should be a high-scoring game, and he's cheap enough that I'm interested.
Man, we're not even at 200 likes with, what do we have? 1,800 plus people watching. Come on, people. If you haven't done so, hit that thumbs up. I might have to resort back to asking Adam to do it and talk about that 1,300 all-timer that we have earlier in the season. Hit that thumbs up. Show some love here on the Deeper Dive. We still got about 23 minutes to go, and a couple of these games I don't think we'll be spending a ton of time on, but we're going to go to Orlando and Memphis now. Orlando,
probably talk about Deandre. I'm expecting DeAndre Jordan to start tonight. If he doesn't start, don't play him. But if he starts, I think you're probably getting it, 24 to 26 minutes or so. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. He's only 4K on DraftKings. The reason I'm assuming he starts is that, he hasn't played the last couple of games, but now you have Durant out, and you also have a bigger Portland front court with Nurkic and Kanter than you had, against the Pacers and their 6'7" centers, or even against the Raptors the game before that. So my assumption is that DeAndre Jordan ends up being a pretty good value here, but definitely keep an eye on that starting lineup.
All right, so Orlando, as we shift over to this one between the Magic and the Memphis Grizzlies, who got smoked last time out. Magic are 12.5-point dogs, though, Adam. It just goes to show you what we're dealing with a couple of teams this year. Oh, my camera got jacked up. Sorry about that, Chris. Chris Karen producing today's show. Chuma Okeke is out. Terrence Ross is doubtful. What do we do with Orlando now that they've got more guys landing on the injury list?
I still don't find them that appealing. Like, I think there's some secondary options here. We know Cole Anthony gives you a high ceiling and should play, around 32 minutes, but he's priced up at this point. Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba are both priced up enough to where I don't really have a ton of interest there. Dwayne Bacon probably plays, 30 to 32 minutes. You're probably getting north of 30 minutes from Gary Harris as well. Those are guys you certainly can look at. We know that Bacon can, get some shots up when they're shorthanded. Gary Harris has about a 20 to 21% usage rate since joining Orlando. He's, taken on a bigger role than he had in Denver. So I think either of those guys are fine. But even though Okeke's been playing big minutes, I don't anticipate it having a huge impact from a fantasy standpoint because he's not a really high usage guy. And my expectation is that Orlando probably just runs a little bit deeper rotation. Like Mo Wagner probably is in the rotation. Maybe Dante Hall picks up some minutes. RJ Hampton probably plays like low to mid 20s, but still just kind of a secondary value there. So there's not much that stands out from Orlando to me outside of just sort of like last piece in types if you're playing a lot of lineups.
All right. And that's not just with the Okeke news. You're talking about in general for Orlando across the entire roster.
Yeah, it's like most of their guys, I think, are just priced where they should be. Like, I don't look at them and say, oh, I have no interest in Orlando, but I don't really look at them and like pinpoint one guy that really stands out to me either. So the way normally that ends up working out for me is I don't end up getting tons of any one Orlando guy. I just think, I'll have somewhere in lineups like I have a bunch of popular plays and then you fit in an Orlando guy because they're not that popular.
The Memphis Grizzlies have been a team that have been well worth avoiding lately. Last game, they played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I get it was a blowout, but 14 players saw the floor against Portland, Adam. Grayson Allen's doubtful. Jaren Jackson sitting this one out. But, I mean, how many guys need to get on the floor before it's just like, all right, there's just so much going on here?
Yeah, it's frustrating, but I think there are a couple of spots you can look to here. DeAnthony Melton played like 22 minutes last game. On the one hand, he benefited from foul trouble, but on the other hand, you have Grayson Allen doubtful today. My guess is that you're going to get Desmond Bane in the starting lineup. He's only 3,200. If he starts, that's actually a reasonable value as well, because you could get 28 to 30 minutes from him. But he's
getting ownership too. Him and Melton are both getting ownership today.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they should be. Melton, the playing time is the concern because Memphis hasn't prioritized getting him minutes this year for whatever reason, but he's been productive whenever he's gotten them, well over a fantasy point per minute guy, and he's still cheap. So I think you can look to either of those guys. There's certainly more minutes available with Allen doubtful. Dylan Brooks, I think, is a little bit underpriced just for the matchup here against a weak Orlando team. Memphis with a 119 implied total here, so one of the higher implied totals on the slate. And we know Brooks is someone that you'll probably plays 30 to 32 minutes. It can really light it up here. And I love this spot for Jonas Valanciunas. Like the issue, of course, is that you're probably getting like 28 to 30 minutes from him, but he's averaged 1.36 DraftKings points per minute this season. And you're talking about an Orlando team that since they traded Vooch, they've allowed the second most total rebounds per game. They've allowed the most defensive rebounds per game. And they've allowed the seventh most offensive rebounds per game. Valanciunas over the last month is fifth in total rebounds per game in the league, despite averaging more than 2 minutes fewer per game than any player ahead of him. Just one of the best rebounders in the league against a team that does not rebound well, has the size advantage against this front court. So really, really like Valanciunas here.
So it sounds like you like Memphis today a lot more than you've liked them in any of the past months.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Who would they be? Bane, Melton, and Valanciunas?
Yeah, if Bane doesn't start, I would probably ignore Bane. If Melton starts, I'd probably play him everywhere. But yeah, Bane, Melton, Valanciunas are the ones that stand out the most. Dylan Brooks, not a bad option either.
Okay. Let's see here. We've got Milwaukee. We've got Chicago. First, though, you heard it right. Yahoo. Back to sponsoring the Deeper Dive. It's good to have them back, although it did disappoint me that when I read this read, there was nothing about YSRPs in there. You remember the YSRP game, right? The Yahoo Sports Rewards points?
Yep.
Yeah, Spags and I made a living off of that. But today's show is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, and they really have become they're the third biggest DFS site out there now, right? There's no one else out that's number 3, right behind DraftKings and Fanduel.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
Can't imagine. I mean, they have to be up there. They've been leading the charge in that spot, really making a ton of progress, and they've got some great stuff going on tonight. Here's the best part about all of this, though. They're pushing back today's slate for us. I'm going to assume that's why, to 7:30, and then we're going to have a full 30-minute show after the Live Before Lock show to break down all of the top plays for Yahoo. So if you're not playing there yet, couple things you should really do. First of all, tune into the show. Check it out after Live Before Lock. All of your lineups for every other site will be in. However, with this one, with Yahoo, you'll have the 30 minutes to build your lineups with Greg, with Eric, and you have an opportunity to get $30 in free contest entries. All you have to do is sign up with the promo code Awesemo, which includes the $25,000 baller contest tonight. Now, that contest, I think, is almost filled. They're doing an $8,000 overflow contest as well for anyone that doesn't get in. But use the promo code Awesemo. Get your $30 in free contest entries over there today. Check out the 30-minute show to lead up to 7:30 lock. It's a one-time offer. Take advantage of it. They are right now one of the leaders in fantasy sports for a reason. Check them out. Head over there. Give them a shot tonight. Win some money over at Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. Use that promo code Awesemo. All right. Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is out. So I'd say that's pretty significant news tonight, Adam. You know what that means? We finally get another chance for Chris Middleton to ruin our lives.
Yeah, nothing feels better. Dante DiVincenzo also out, which wasn't expected.
Yeah, my fault. You're right, though. DiVincenzo out along with Giannis. What are we doing with the big dogs here, Middleton and Drew Holiday?
Yeah, I mean, Middleton and Drew, I think both just stand out as two of the top plays on the slate because they're not priced for Giannis to be out. This, wasn't an expected absence or a foreseeable absence, other than the fact that he got hurt yesterday. So pricing was already out. They're not adjusted. Giannis has been back for long enough where they're not priced up from previously. So, Middleton in the games that he has played with Drew Holiday and without Giannis has averaged like 1.26 DraftKings points per minute. Holiday's at about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute. They both see a bump in usage rate. They both see a bump in assist percentage. It's, a neutral matchup basically against Chicago. So no real concerns there. I think they're both just pretty clearly mispriced here.
Okay. Rishi, I don't know. Hit them up or hit up one of us at support@awesemo.com. Maybe we can take care of you. If you're saying the promo code didn't work, it certainly should work. But if it didn't, let somebody know and they'll take care of it. That's not my expertise though, but someone can figure that out for you. All right. So now that Giannis is sidelined, and Adam, this isn't a shock, right? It's for first-time users. I shouldn't need to say that, but yes, it is for first-time users if you haven't signed up and at Awesemo or at Yahoo yet. The whole Giannis thing, he was already doubtful, right? Like, I don't know if he was officially doubtful, but they were 1-point favorites against Chicago, which did that shock you a little bit that even with Giannis doubtful, they were only favored by a point?
Kind of surprising, I guess. But
I thought it was.
Yeah. Like you said, like nothing was official, but he only played 46 seconds yesterday. So I think it was kind of assumed.
Right. And it was clearly baked into the line. I mean,
right.
You and I can both agree that line suggested that Giannis wasn't playing.
Yeah. Nobody with enough money to move the line was betting on that game expecting Giannis to play.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Just hammering Chicago thinking Giannis was active.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't make much sense. Priorities for Milwaukee right now, though.
Middleton and Holiday for sure. Interested to see what the starting lineup looks like. I think Bobby Portis is one of the bigger question marks tonight because he's averaged 27 minutes per game in the games without Giannis this year. But the problem is that you didn't have PJ Tucker in those games. And so like yesterday, Portis still played 24 minutes, which is a bump and still would make him, 5,500 on DraftKings or 4,800 on FanDuel. But, if assuming PJ Tucker starts in place of Giannis, you're not going to feel as good about Portis. It should drive his ownership down a little bit, but it makes him risky. If Portis does start, then of course he's going to look like a much better option. PJ Tucker's 3K, probably plays 30 plus minutes. It's still PJ Tucker. I'm assuming Bryn Forbes starts in place of DiVincenzo. You could have Connaughton start. Forbes is, I think, mediocre if he starts. Connaughton, if he starts, I'd be a little bit more interested in because he's a better fantasy producer. But I think the priorities are Middleton and Drew, and then basically the rest of the starting lineup, I would say, is a secondary option along with Bobby Portis.
Man, what about Thad Young on the other side of this game? Catching 21%, 25 projected ownership on DraftKings right now. I mean, how do you come to terms with something like that?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by the ownership. I do think he's 30%
on FanDuel.
Yeah, like I think he's a good play. Just I think he's a little bit underpriced. But he's not really easy to trust either. Like he's been a good fantasy producer this year, almost 1.2 DraftKings points per minute. The problem is that he's only averaged about 22 minutes per game, or he's averaged 24 minutes per game for the season. But recently he's averaged even less than that up until the last two games where he played like 26 and 29 minutes. So if you assume he's going to get that same run tonight, then he projects as a very good option in a pace-up spot against the Milwaukee team, missing their best player. Like Young contributes in every category, and he should produce at a high per minute rate here. The issue is just it's still kind of risky because outside of the last two games, he was playing 14, 16, 17 minutes. And if you get that, like you're not paying $5,100 for that. So I do think that Thaddeus Young is a good play. I was a little surprised to see his ownership as high as it is, though.
Yeah, what about the rest of the Bulls, though? You've got Kobe White pulling a little bit of love, Nikola Vucevic a little bit as well. He's still above $10,000, though, on DraftKings, which feels a bit prohibitive pretty much any time he goes out there when you've got so many other good players on this slate. And you have Westbrook. You don't have Giannis. You don't have Harden. You don't have De'Aaron Fox. You do have LeBron James, but he'll likely be limited against Sacramento, and Anthony Davis is back. So I think the reason Vooch is getting right now around 12% ownership is because most of the high-end guys either aren't on this slate or they're out. Mitchell's out too.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Vooch did play 37 minutes last game. Like, his biggest issue since coming to Chicago has been that it seemed like his playing time was capped a bit. He was playing 32, 33 minutes. So seeing him get upper 30s is good to see. He's averaged 1.42 DraftKings points per minute in the games he's played without Levine since joining the Bulls. So on DraftKings, I can see, having him in some tournament lineups. On FanDuel, I think he actually looks like a good play at 9K.
Yeah, well, he's been on FanDuel. His price hasn't been nearly as outrageous as it's been on DraftKings lately.
Yeah, it's been like $1,000 plus gap for a while.
Yeah, and that makes a huge difference. So I understand why he's pulling 20% there. What about White and the rest of the Bulls rotation?
Yeah, if you get to some Kobe White, I think it's fine. I feel really similarly to Kobe White as I do to Cole Anthony. It's just a price point where I doubt I really end up prioritizing them, because like you can just pay up for like Drew Holiday for not that much more, and there's more than enough value at other positions that'll allow you to do so. So if Kobe White lands in some lineups, he has a high ceiling here, but I think Thaddeus Young is going to be a little bit easier to get to because of the position. Vooch on FanDuel is going to be pretty easy to get to, I think, and then Kobe White, if you get some, it's fine, but it's not something I'm going out of my way for.
All right, 2 games to go. Utah and Phoenix. Thanks you guys for hanging out with us throughout this. Stick around afterwards, live before lock, very same stream coming up right after this. We're going to be like 1 minute crossover. Boom. You're going to see Greg and Eric's lovely faces taking you up till not 7, but 7:30, because you got the 30-minute Awesemo Yahoo show for that 7:30 lock that they've pushed back just for us tonight. Utah and Phoenix. Adam, the Phoenix Suns favored 4.5 points at home, 220 total. Utah still without Donovan Mitchell, still without Mike Conley, dealing with that lingering hamstring issue, and Royce O'Neal questionable. Not a huge deal, but he is yet another option on this team that could be sidelined today. Do we like anybody on Utah, just given the overall lack of health to this starting lineup?
Yeah, so I think on FanDuel, the pricing is much better than it is on DraftKings. They just haven't really bumped anyone up for Conley and Mitchell being out. On DraftKings, I still think that there's options here, but they just don't look as good as they do on FanDuel. I'd say they're more of like secondary plays because everybody is more expensive. But still, Clarkson came off the bench last game, which was kind of, I think, surprised some people, but it to me didn't make a huge difference. He still played like 16 minutes in the first half. The game got out of control, but I would assume if this game's competitive, you're getting around 32 minutes or so from Clarkson. He's averaged about 1.08 DraftKings points per minute without Conley or Mitchell on the floor this year. So I still think he's fine. Joe Ingles, the same thing. He's $1,200 less expensive on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. He averages 1.07 or 1.08 DraftKings points per minute without those guys on the floor as well. You're probably getting 33 to 34 minutes from him in a competitive game. We know Gobert gives you a massive ceiling. Although there's, a lot of mid-range centers that I think are comparable to Gobert. And then one spot to pay attention to, though, Niang started last game, played like 26 and a half minutes, obviously lost playing time in the blowout. On the one hand, he played almost the entire second quarter, which I don't expect to happen again. But, he also lost minutes in the fourth quarter. So I think it's fair, if Royce O'Neal plays, I think it's fair to expect Niang to get something like 26 to 28 minutes. He's not a bad fantasy point per minute guy. So at 3,400, I think he's a very good value here.
Man, I might have to lay down after this show. I made the mistake of giving in to the cravings, and I smoked some crack. No, I went out and I got a Domino's cheesesteak pizza. It sounds gross, right? But it's delicious. And I ate almost the entire thing, Adam. Then I went up on a ladder and I had to paint the ceiling, and I thought I was going to die. So I got down, but that feeling after you eat something that your body just tells you shouldn't have eaten. And if you are going to eat it, you should have only eaten maybe a fraction of the amount you ate.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And when you're talking, I'm just sitting back.
Get a nice nap after the show.
I'll have to get till 7:00 and then I'll be okay. Don't judge me until you've tried that cheesesteak pizza. I get it's Domino's, but it's down the street. It's delicious. And I don't have any discipline. What are you doing for Phoenix?
Much less interested in the Phoenix side than the Utah side, which I don't think is surprising. But I do think it's worth noting that we actually are getting some decent pricing on the Suns, which is unusual. Devin Booker in particular, I think stands out. 7,900 on DraftKings, 7,500 on FanDuel. We know the matchup's difficult. Utah's been the most efficient defense in the league for the last month, but Booker's probably going to play 34, 35, 36 minutes in a competitive game. He's got a 32% usage rate in the games that he has played with Chris Paul this season. So, there's not many guys priced around 8K that give you 30+% usage. Granted, tonight there's a few more, or at least, a few other guys in that price range that, look very, very good. But I think Booker does give you a pretty nice ceiling. Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, we know those guys are capable of big games as well. But Booker's the guy that looks the best to me.
This game overall, would you say we have any priorities on either side, like legit priorities on an 8-game slate?
FanDuel, I would say, yeah. Gobert, Ingles, Clarkson, to a lesser extent Bogdanovich, but definitely those first three. On DraftKings, priorities as far as like guys that I would expect to just be jamming into a ton of lineups, I don't think so.
All right, one game to go. Sacramento, LA Lakers. You will get LeBron back, at least he's expected back today. Anthony Davis is probable. We'll hit on the Lakers, but first, with the Kings, Fox remains out. Harrison Barnes remains out. Marvin Bagley, however, after a extended hiatus, the man has not played since the 15th of March. You're talking a month and a half now. He's returning to the rotation. Adam, I'd be hard-pressed to assume he's not pretty significantly limited today, but it's not like his minutes were consistent or reliable to begin with before he got hurt. He was all over the map.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it's difficult enough to guess how many minutes Marvin Bagley's going to play when he's fully healthy and he's been playing for a month. My guess is you're getting something like 20 to 24 tonight, but it's purely a guess. I don't think it matters too much. Like I think that he probably plays enough minutes where I'm not really interested in Mo Harkless. I'm not too interested in Matu, and I'm not really interested in Bagley.
All right, what about the rest of this team?
Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is the one spot that stands out to me. He's been productive in his starts without De'Aaron Fox. His usage rate's up around 25%. Even if you assume that comes down a little bit, playing more minutes alongside Bagley than he has been, that's still, a lot of usage for a pretty efficient shooter in Halliburton. And he should probably play 35 or 36 minutes if the Kings keep this close, which is a big if because this team is terrible. But, and the Lakers, are just getting better. But Halliburton's the guy that I think if anything from Sacramento stands out to me, it's Halliburton.
Does anything stand out on the Lakers now that they're finally beginning to get healthy? Because this was a team that was hard to play even when they weren't healthy. And then when we would play them, you'd be routinely disappointed from a 1 for 12 Kyle Kuzma shooting game or an Anthony Davis spot where his minutes aren't where they should be, or he just really doesn't produce enough peripherals to get there. And then Dennis Schroeder pops off on those random 50-point games and then goes back into hibernation on 5 of the other straight. So they've already been a tough team to figure out.
Yeah, and I think with LeBron being back, it's just going to make it really, really tough because like Dennis Schroeder, for example, I was really interested in tonight, assuming LeBron wasn't going to play because his numbers haven't really dropped off when he's played with Anthony Davis, but they do when he plays with LeBron. So, he's probably not going to play all of his minutes with LeBron. I assume LeBron doesn't play that many minutes, but it's still going to cut into his production enough where I'm not really interested there. Andre Drummond, I think probably destroys this front court for whatever amount of time he's on the floor, but he only played 20 minutes last game. They used Harrell as his backup and then they closed with Anthony Davis. So that, I have trouble paying $7,400 for what could be 20 and you're hoping for like 25 minutes from Drummond when I can pay that same thing for like Valanciunas or Nurkic or someone like that and get similar production. Davis, I think you can still take a shot there. Like he's still Anthony Davis. He's still really good. He still can absolutely destroy the Sacramento team. And he has played about 31 and 32 minutes in his last couple of games. So Anthony Davis, I think, is the guy that I'm most likely to get to in tournaments here. But LeBron, assuming LeBron plays, it just kind of throws a wrench into anything I had been planning on doing.
Okay. Super chat from Kelly Sullivan. Favorite center tonight besides the GOAT, JW. Who's JW? I was thinking maybe JV, Jonas Valanciunas, but I don't know who a JW is.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Right? Who's your favorite center tonight besides JW?
Do we have a site?
No.
All right.
Take a guess.
Yeah, I'll go with Valanciunas. Like, on the one hand, it's tough because of the minutes, but I love the spot for him here against Orlando.
Okay. Well, I guess, yeah, they're saying just wondering, but who's the GOAT then? It says besides the GOAT, hashtag JW. Why are we hashtagging it just wondering? If that's the case, who's the GOAT so I can know who not to say? I don't know, Adam. I'm trying here, but I don't know. Anyway, anything else for the Lakers before we wrap this one up?
No, I think it's kind of an unappealing spot despite the fact that it's a really good spot.
All right, that'll do it for us. Before we go, let's show some love to the Awesemo community. Chris, pull up that Hall of Fame page. We'll toss it straight over to Live Before Lock after this. I just want to spread the love out there and see what we've got going on. What do we have? One of the goals heading into 2021 was to branch out a little bit in other sports with the goal to win a big contest. Shout out to everyone at Awesemo.com for the fire content, which helped me build a wonderful foundation for this round 3 showdown win. $20,000. Jeremy Schritt. Good stuff, brother. All you got to do to get up here, hit that link, or actually go to awesemo.com/avatar, download the avatar. When you go to DraftKings, Fanduel, Yahoo, put that as your avatar. If you take first through third in a field of 5,000 or more and screenshot us at Awesemo Hall of Fame, include me in the tweet as well, you will, of course, get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. It's $100 value. Great stuff. I hold my own. Says, hey, fellas, even though I tied for first place, this is the second slate I took down this week. Thanks to all that Awesemo badge sitting right there at the top. Big Guilt 37 with the $1,000 50 win in the mini max. Love to see it. I think we got one more. Tied for first in the night slate and won on DK and took 5th and 10th in the Yahoo Baller. Another solid night. Thanks to Awesemo. Like I said, it doesn't have to be just DraftKings or FanDuel. Hop on over to Yahoo and check out the Baller there as well. Good stuff, Ben P. And then we have not a bad night at all. Almost had the big prize, $1,500. There you go. Third place, $320 from HJKDL1234. Good stuff, man. That'll do it. That is the Awesemo Hall of Fame. That is the Deeper Dive presented by Yahoo. Stick around live before lock. Then the 30-minute show coming up next. Appreciate all you guys for hanging out today. We will see you back here on the next one.
How we doing this fine day, everybody?
We're good. I don't know what music Chris is playing, but it seems to have very much upset people in the YouTube chat. Yeah, they are not thrilled. I can't hear it, so I don't know what it is.
Bring back robot sex music.
Are our mics on? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what is this music people are so upset about? Oh, there we go. Dan Jackson likes it. He's the only one. But or else it's like a 99 to 100 ratio of people disliking the music.
We can't even hear it.
No.
Chalk, king of chalk. That is me.
Yeah, the people are demanding that Chris shows up in the chat to explain his music choices. But Jenkins is saying this sounds like the music from what is it? I guess that would be like the Viagra commercial. It's like guys with erectile dysfunction running on the beach. This music's playing in the background. That kind of gives me an idea of what it sounds like.
I think Nolan nailed it. Guns N' Roses meets elevator music. That paints a picture.
Okay. Are we sure that people don't want more of the music?
guess is no. Just a rough guess.
It is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock Show, new sponsor day. We are sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. So you guys know what that means. Eric and I, not only are we going to be talking about the Draftkings and Fanduel slates for the next hour, but much like we did last night, we're going to be sticking around for another 30 minutes. We're going to be talking about Yahoo. They have a big baller contest, which is very close to filling, by the way. So if you guys do want to go check out Yahoo, at least before the show had started, there was only 40 spots left in that contest, but they're going to be running more contests also opening up for us. And their slate does not lock until 7:30. They are acquiescing to us doing this show for them tonight. So there we go. A little bit of a vocab word. And yeah, there we go. Also, if you guys have not yet deposited on Yahoo, if you're brand new to it, you can get $30 in free contest entries if you use the promo code Awesemo. And also, like I said, there's that 25K big baller contest with only a few entries left in it. So if you want to get in on that, definitely go hurry, like literally hurry, run. The spots are going fast. It's like, one of those ad read commercials where like the numbers are ticking down, but it's actually real. Like I looked at it before and there was only, 40 spots left. So by the time I'm talking, they could already be filled. But other than that, Eric, we've got a whole bunch of news on this slate, still a bunch of news to come out. How are you feeling about everything going on?
I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I think a lot of the news, obviously we're going to get the major stuff that we need right on the front end with, I think we got the Capela news. We have some other things coming down the pipeline, but just one game locking right at lock. We'll be able to have that half hour to talk all Yahoo coming up to the 7:30 p.m. Eastern time lock. It's a good time. I think playing over on Yahoo, playing on other sites in general is just such an edge. People aren't necessarily putting in the work, and I get an opportunity to write 2 articles for them on Fridays for MLB and NBA. And so I'm feeling really prepared for that. Hope everybody enjoys playing over there, but definitely get in that $20 like now.
By the way, we do have a super chat here right off the bat from Gene B. Kim, and he's asking, why didn't we recommend Alize Johnson yesterday? And also he wants to know if I could do an Eric voice. Here's the deal. Number one, I can't do the Eric voice, but also too, like this kind of goes hand in hand, right? Number one, if I did it, it would bomb. It wouldn't go well. But number two, I don't want to step on Spags' bit. I don't want to infringe on his bits here. So I'm going to leave that to him whenever he wants to. And for sure, I'll get him to do it next time he's on. But Alize Johnson, by the way, we could not exactly tied to a super chat, but kind of. We could talk about Alize Johnson for a second tonight. But last night, because I was kind of curious, looked up some of his own. He was 0% owned in a lot of contests yesterday. Like people didn't roster him at all. But yeah, I would have liked if I had recommended Alize Johnson to anybody. But for tonight, he is somebody who's picking up a little bit of ownership. So Eric, is Alize Johnson somebody you're interested in for tonight's slate?
Yeah. I don't know necessarily like what to expect, but I know that if I got 15, 20 minutes, it's hard to imagine coming off of, he's had 2 games now where he's played 32 minutes. He played 32 minutes against Utah in an absolute drumming. They lost by 30 on the 24th of March. This was a competitive game for most of it until, obviously the Brogdon injury and ended up being a 17-point lopsided affair, but it was a lot of them in the fourth quarter, Kevin Durant going absolutely silly. But I think that has to earn him some kind of run here. I don't think we expect him in a starting lineup by any means. I don't know if that's like going to be the bump that he gets there, but 20 and 21 is a real thing. And I think at 3K, it mitigates a lot of the risk of going there. If he was like 60% owned, that would be a different conversation, but he's not. He's currently right around half of that. Chris Spags is in the chat. Okay. So you owe Gene B. Kim $7.77 of an impression of me. So definitely put that's an IOU. It's as good as money. And I'm pretty sure Alize Johnson needs to be in your player pool today. How much is just basically saying like, for me, I'm taking more of an aggressive stand on it because I like taking aggressive stands on 3K guys who, if he gets 25 minutes, you're pretty much going to need him at this point in time. 1.35 fantasy points per minute on DraftKings for the year. What are you feeling about him?
So right now, and I'm going to have to redo my lineups, by the way, anyway, because we were going to have to redo them anyway. There's a whole bunch of news items coming out, but Bogdanovic was just ruled out. Trae Young officially ruled in. So we could talk about the Hawks in a second. In the last run I did, I had 5% Alize Johnson on DraftKings. There's just other value plays I like today a lot also. So I don't think he's somebody I'm going to get to a ton, but let's see where I end up getting to now that we have this Bogdanovich news too. And then, I mean, also it's a slate where it depends how many studs ultimately I'm going to want to end up paying up for, and then how heavy stars and scrubs I want to get. But let's talk about the Atlanta Hawks right now. So Clint Capela in, Trae Young in, Bogdanovich out. So first glance, also a really difficult matchup for the Atlanta Hawks playing in Philadelphia. The 76ers are everybody active. Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, a whole gang together for them. So is there anybody from the Atlanta Hawks that you want to get to at the moment?
Really, no. 9,300 is too high to really beginning up to Trae Young. I thought if Bogdanovich was in there, or sorry, if Trae Young got out of there, you could play Lou Williams, and Bogdanovich were to get ruled in, you could play him. But considering it's the inverse there, I really don't have any interest in going to anybody. We got Capela ruled in, therefore it kind of mitigates any interest I'd have in somebody like John Collins. I'm really not getting anything from this team at this point in time. This whole game is basically just a write-off for me, with the exception of a little bit of Ben Simmons over on Fanduel because of that price tag, and then Joel Embiid on both sites because that's always a contrarian spend up that I'm always going to be interested on every single slate.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just looking at some of the price tags and the minutes here now, and so Trae Young coming off an injury, I'm surprised he's back already. I thought he was going to be out for an extended period of time, and while I don't think that he's going to be severely limited, I mean, still he hasn't played in a week and a half, and I assume that while he's close to 100%, there could be a chance they're really trying to push him to play because the Atlanta Hawks are now in a position where, you know, they're fairly tight with the Miami Heat for the lead in that division, and they also want to avoid the play-in game. So it could be a thing where they're going to work Trae Young back up. Like if he only plays 30 minutes, 31 minutes, I wouldn't be surprised by that. And in a really tough matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers, it's not a spot I'm going to want to get to, especially when you consider all the other point guard options we have on the slate, right? Kyrie Irving to be great play on FanDuel and DraftKings. Damian Lillard, viable on both sites, but a much stronger play on FanDuel in the matchup against the Nets. It's going to be hard for me to prioritize Trae Young at all. Those guys are going to be projected so much higher than also you just factor in a little bit of the blowout risk and the time off. So Trae Young and really the rest of the Atlanta Hawks, it does not look like I'm going to have them in my player pool.
Yep, right there with you.
All right. The other piece of news, which not really fresh news, except did come out a little bit before the show started, and something that I have not quite updated for, but Colin Sexton is in for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Really favorable matchup for them going up against the Washington Wizards. A situation almost like Trae Young light here, right? Where, I mean, we've seen because, you know, we've seen big games from guys like Darius Garland without Colin Sexton in there. Sexton, who was dealing with a concussion. Now he's back in, and that's going to take away from Garland. Garland's really expensive on FanDuel and DraftKings. It's going to take away usage from, you know, really everybody in the starting lineup. So even though it's a really good matchup against Washington, I'm not really looking to get to anybody from Cleveland right now other than Jared Allen at center on FanDuel. Looks like a good play, and then viable on DraftKings, but not really a high priority play. But outside of that, nothing really stands out to me from Cleveland. Do you feel any differently?
I'm going to throw Kevin Love on FanDuel into the bucket as well. Like 5,700, under 6K, played 35 minutes last time out. I feel like that's a place where I think over there where you're playing two power forwards, I do like getting to a little bit of him there. I think based on that starting lineup that we're going to get from Milwaukee, which is a long time to be waiting on that, I think that's going to kind of dictate what I do with Bobby Portis. I mean, he played 23 minutes and still got there, 37.7 yesterday. He's under 5K there, super, super popular. But in terms of trying to target other upsides there, if you got like low 30s minutes from Kevin Love, I really do think 5,700 is still a good spot to get to them. Do you have any interest in him whatsoever?
I don't.
Okay.
There's so many bodies there. And then also let me bring up his minutes really quick. And I know that he apologized for his mini meltdown the other day where he was like, hey, I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this anymore. But his minutes still, they just haven't been there over the last few games. And I will actually played 35 minutes of the game against Orlando. But before then, he played 24 minutes, 28 minutes, 27 minutes, 26 minutes. And his shooting has been so piss poor lately. The last time he scored more than 15 real life points in a game was April 14th against who's that against? That was against the Charlotte Hornets, a game that they won by 13. There's a lot of good plays on the slate, and this is something that actually could tie into the super chat we got from Art Cathelza, who's asking us Westbrook today on DK. I think it's another one of those slates where a lot of mid-tier will score high and his salary might not be optimal. I disagree. This is going to tie into the Kevin Love point right here, but to me, there's so much value on the slate. There's so many stars I want to pay up for, whether it be Westbrook, who Art Cathelza is asking the question about, Kyrie Irving, Damian Lillard, particularly on FanDuel, that this is another stars and scrubs slate to me. And I'm not going to be building a lot of lineups in the mid-range Russell Westbrook is a pretty high priority play for me. What about for you?
Yeah, Russell Westbrook has been a priority for me. I've been saying it, I think, probably every single slate for the last 2 weeks, that he's just underpriced. Like 11K is an underpriced Russell Westbrook. I'm not going to come off of that stance. I've been near like 80, 90, 100% Russ pretty much every single slate. I'm going to come down a little bit because I do think there are actual pieces. If we're going to talk mid-range, we can throw 7K in there. Milwaukee has 2 guys that have 55 plus point ceilings on today's slate that are under 8K. So, I mean, getting both of them into your lineups is kind of a priority for me too. But Russell Westbrook, just as consistent as possible outside of the one game where he floored out against Cleveland for whatever reason. I mean, we just look at box scores, 59 or more, 56 or more, on DraftKings, every single slate, 9 of his last 10. It's just ridiculous the amount of security and upside combination that you have with Russell Westbrook. So getting him in as many lineups as possible is kind of the way to go on every slate until that number changes.
Yeah, and we kind of have an explanation for why he had that bad game against Cleveland. First of all, I mean, everybody is allowed to have a bad game every once in a while. Russell Westbrook, he's literally had one bad fantasy game in the last month, and it's a game where he still scored, 40 DraftKings points. But like you said before before that game, to find a game where he scored below 50, you have to go back to April 23rd and a blowout loss to the Knicks where he didn't play a full allotment of minutes. So the floor and ceiling has been ridiculously high for Westbrook. But then also remember in that game, he sprained his ankle. And the next day he was listed as questionable to play. So he was playing through an ankle injury that night. And he bounced back the next day. He had his normal triple-double, scored 64 fantasy points against the San Antonio Spurs. But he had one bad game, and I remember the next day we were like, oh, do we get off Russell Westbrook now? And I don't think we ever want to be off Russell Westbrook at this point. There's just the odds of him having a bad game, it's just so non-existent. I mean, like you said, the 11,000 price tag on DraftKings, and that's what Architels was specifically asking about. He rarely ever scores under 55 DraftKings points. He's done
and also think how different of a think of how different of a play he is compared to Steph Curry. Like, not shooting dependent whatsoever, can get there in so many ways. He's had bad shooting games. He's had great shooting games. And it really doesn't matter because when you're putting triple doubles together at this consistent of a rate where you're getting bonuses for such things, where the assist and rebound rate just continue to be there in such a ridiculous way, his risk of failure is so much lower than some of these other guys that sit in that top 10K range, where to truly get to a 60, 70 point ceiling, it's got to be scoring output.
All right. And then one other super chat here from Corey A. Jefferson. He's asking us Fournier, Bacon, or Shaman for a Fanduel single entry. Let's see. For me, that is going to be, by the way, I don't really like any of those guys all that much, to be honest. Oh, no, never mind. Wait, he had Fournier in there. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so never
Fournier,
mind. It's Fournier. It's Fournier. I was comparing Bacon and Shaman. Yeah, it's Fournier by a pretty wide margin, actually.
Single entry, absolutely Fournier.
All right. So, yeah, that's Fournier, not even close. I don't even have exposure to those other two guys. So getting back to some of the other news that we've gotten so far, the really big one, obviously, is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's now doubtful to play, so I'm expecting him to be out. And when he's off the court, I've pulled up the Milwaukee usage numbers. So what they're going to do with the starting lineup, it's a little up in the air. Sometimes they go to Bobby Portis, sometimes they go elsewhere. But it's almost a little bit irrelevant to me because Bobby Portis, even when he's come off the bench, has had a lot of upside in some of those games with Giannis. So I'm going to be getting exposure to him either way, but it's going to be a thing where I get more exposure to Portis if he starts. However, in my player pool either way, and I think he's a really strong option. But
he got ruled out already, by the way. Him and Dante DiVincenzo got ruled out.
Okay, I saw Giannis is doubtful before, but whatever. Yep. Yeah, so officially out now. But so he's not playing. DiVincenzo's not playing. When Giannis is off the court this year, Chris Middleton, 31.7% usage rate, scores 47.33 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. Jrue Holiday, 26.7% usage rate, scores 47.3 DraftKings points per 36 minutes. Now, these guys are vastly different plays on FanDuel and DraftKings. FanDuel, no-brainer plays, way too cheap on Middleton and Giannis on FanDuel. DraftKings, I think, is a little bit dicier, right? Where we have Middleton up to 7,900, Jrue Holiday up to 7,800. I still think both of them are good plays, but Eric, how much do you want to get to them at those price tags?
I still want to get over top of the field on both of them. I don't see, so we have that exactly, you said 31.4% usage rate, 1.32 DraftKings points per minute for Middleton with Giannis off the floor, 717 minutes. We've seen in previous years, it's been higher than that. And then looking over at at Holiday, 1.34 on the entire year with a 618 minute sample. It's ridiculous how well they perform. We saw that last night. It was basically a game without Giannis. He played 1 minute and was out of there. Yeah. We're kind of looking at the exact same situation today. And I don't know how, when you're getting somebody that's under 8K with a ceiling of a 10K player where they're looking at 60, 65 potentially from either one of them, that you're not going to be overweight to both of them. Fading them would be something where it's purely from an ownership perspective. And I don't see the ownership getting there like quite yet to any kind of a level where I'd be curious to come off of them.
All right. And by the way, we did just get a fresh ownership projection. So guys, I'm gonna leave my faith in you. I'm about to give out some ownership projections here. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm not even gonna say a threshold. I'm just gonna trust in the good naturedness of the people of the internet. You're just gonna go ahead. You're gonna like our video and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because right here's the fresh ownership on the Milwaukee Bucks, guys. Drew Holiday, 26% on DraftKings. Chris Middleton, 21% on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Chris Middleton, 44.2%. Drew Holiday, 37.6%. So two of the three highest rostered players on FanDuel. The other third guy in the mix there is Kyrie Irving. So with that in mind, Derek, those ownership rates, does that surprise you at all that Drew Holiday is coming out with more ownership than Chris Middleton?
He is on DraftKings or FanDuel? Which one did you just cite?
On DraftKings, Drew Holiday, 26% compared to Middleton at 21% on DraftKings.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes. I thought you were saying compared to Kyrie. I don't know why I was hearing it that way. That's my own fault. I would say that I'm not surprised. So look at the rest of the position right now for point guard. Like, we do have Russ Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. I think just in terms of the spend ups there, like it then is going to thin out quite a bit into that mid-range. We don't have nearly the mid-range that we talked about yesterday with like Lonzo Ball, with Kevin Porter Jr., who, by the way, what a smash that was. That was awfully fun. But I'm looking around at the small forward position. People tend to punt down there. There's not really a ton of the punts there. Chris Middleton, I guess it kind of would surprise me a little bit that Drew Holiday, considering look at the rest of the position other than Alize Johnson, it gets pretty gross very, very quickly at small forward. I think Middleton should and probably will come in much over that, like over top of that number. That's kind of my impression of it. What do you think?
I don't know, because at that kind of price tag, by the way, I'm overweight to the field on the number. I don't know that the field's going to be much different than that, though. I'm going to take the ownership. Awesome, I'm going to take that ownership projection as is. I think he's going to be very chalky on FanDuel. On DraftKings, I think he's going to be popular. I mean, right now we have him as the sixth most popular player, but I don't think he's going to get, at least in big field GPPs, like single entry, he's going to be higher owned, but like the bigger field tournaments, I don't think he's going to be like 40% owned or anything like that. Like, I think because there's so many good plays today, right?
Right.
That I don't think that he's going to be somebody who's like massive chalk. I think he's going to be popular, but nothing crazy.
That surprises me, though. It really kind of does. I think it just tells you how maybe bitter people are. Middleton has underperformed in a lot of these spots as of late. It's not. I'm going to take the advantageous. Like, there's so much history that we have of this situation from last season up until this year, and he still has those rates. It just necessarily hasn't been put together in the same game. And if he had a couple of those 55, 60 point outbursts we saw last year, without Giannis there, we would be having a different conversation. I know Drew Holiday in the mix probably tempers expectations. That's a big upgrade over Eric Bledsoe. I think we've seen that, but I'm still going to be overweight to the field for sure on that.
Yep, and I have no problem with that. I'm overweight to the field also, so that is definitely what I'm planning to do. We did have another super chat in here. It was from our guy Soldope1234. He's saying, "Hey guys, what's up? Usually I'm flustered by lock time, but I feel eerily comfortable today and love my lineups. Only one question today for FanDuel: Allen versus Valanciunas." By the way, I'll say this: if you're comfortable about your lineups right now, I wouldn't be. There's still a lot of news yet to come. We did have Nicholas Claxton officially just ruled out. And we do have a lot of the key pieces. We've known about them, but we still have guys, like Royce O'Neal's questionable, Jay Crowder's questionable. There's still other pieces. And then some of the teams, who knows what the starting lineup's going to be. Like a team like the Bucks, I don't really know exactly who they're going to start. So it's definitely something that's going to probably make me tinker a little bit. But if you feel comfortable, good. I feel good about that. But anyway, to his question, Eric, for FanDuel, Jared Allen or Jonas Valanciunas, which to you is the preferred option?
I mean, that's the question everybody's kind of asking all day. They're the exact same number, 6,800. Both have ceilings that we're very aware of. I think Allen's going to see a couple more minutes. I think Valanciunas is just a significantly better fantasy point per minute guy, 1.3 as opposed to 1.1. I think I'm probably going to side slightly with Valanciunas. He's done well by me this entire year. I feel like when I've been playing him, it's always a question of minutes and it's always a question of opportunity. But going across from Orlando, where you have two true centers in Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba, I think that has to help the security. Now, the one thing we don't talk about blowouts in one regard, and when we get to Yahoo, I'll talk about some Orlando centers because I think I do have some interest in going to Mo Bamba around $14 over there today. But I really do think that Jonas Valanciunas has a little bit higher ceiling here. Jared Allen, we talked about Sexton back in the mix. Garland's there. Kevin Love's there. Just a couple, like even just adding Sexton back on the floor tempers my expectations for him a little bit. So at the same ownership, give me J-Val.
By the way, an update on the Yahoo Big Baller contest. It is full, but there is a second $8,000 contest, and that's not quite full yet. So if you're still looking to join on Yahoo, they are sponsoring today's show. Go ahead, use the promo code Awesemo, and you will get a $30 bonus in free credits when you go and join if you're a new user to yahoo.com. That is Yahoo DFS. And they were running a 25K Big Baller contest, but that is already full. So next time, if you see Yahoo posting big contest, try to get in early because they filled up pretty quickly today with them joining the shows and now sponsoring for us. But let me see, was there? Oh, here we go. We did have another super chat here from Kyle Frank, who's saying Rui at 4,100 on FanDuel. Will his minutes increase? Potentially, although to me, he's not a high priority play. If you had him in your lineup, I wouldn't say you have to take him out, but I think there's much better plays at small forward than Rui Hachimura. Eric, do you feel any differently than that?
You're asking the wrong guy because I'm an absolute Rui mark. Okay. I will be over the field on Rui for the next however many slates. I rode that price tag up quite a bit up until he got hurt. It was very nice to be getting secured. He was playing minutes up in near 40. Like he was playing like 40-ish minutes for a long stretch there. You have Denny Avdia out there. They've kind of mixed and matched. Anthony Gill's been randomly spiking in some games and jumping into the rotation, which I don't enjoy seeing. There's a three-headed center rotation that's kind of going on, but Garrison Matthews has kind of been out of it now too. I think that there is a path for 35 minutes here for Rui. I've been playing in the low 30s here now again. I'm going to be over top of the field on Rui pretty much every single slate until we see it start to get back up to 5K. Okay, so at his ownership, I think he's about a fair play. My preferred options at small forward on FanDuel are Joe Ingles and Chris Middleton. For Joe Ingles, number one, we already have Donovan Mitchell out. We already have Mike Conley out. And then we also have Royce O'Neal, who's questionable to play. And I think that if Royce O'Neal gets ruled out, like he's going to have to play so many minutes. The other thing also is this is a very, very important game for the Utah Jazz. Going up against the Phoenix Suns, the number one overall seed in the Western Conference is up for grabs right now. So this is a game where Utah, the guys they have left, I think we're going to see a very significant minutes workload for Joe Ingles. So Rui at 4,100, I don't think that he's a bad play. I think he's going to continue to play more minutes. He's just not my preferred option at small forward. Makes sense, but also I'm the chalk master. You can't say the top two small forwards in ownership and get away with that. I'm going to call you out. So I'm going to Rui, who's the fifth highest owned, and I'm going to be over the field. And I'm going to be about at it. Maybe like I think I was 5% over. Yeah, I was getting to right around 30% on Joe Ingles on my last run. I feel good about that as well. I don't ever really have any strong feelings. I know that assist rate is really kind of what jumps when you get Donovan Mitchell off the floor, Mike Conley off the floor, but still not the most enthusiastic play when you look at some of the wings. I don't try to factor in individual defense that much, but you've got some really strong wing defenders there on Phoenix. And I've watched enough of their games this season where they kind of make life miserable for guys out on the wing between Mikal Bridges and whom else am I thinking? There's one other guy. The guy that they just got, Torrey Craig, who comes in there and just plays fantastic defense. So I'm not really trying to go crazy with Joe Ingles. I get it, but I'm going to go kind of to Rui and go over the field there. By the way, I like how you're trying to play. By the way, yes, Joe Ingles does have more ownership than Rui, but we're talking about Joe Ingles. He's I'll give him more ownerships here because once again, I believe in the good naturedness of the YouTube. It's Friday. I believe it's Friday. Yeah, I know they're all subscribing, they're all liking the video, but Joe Ingles, he is 21% ownership. Kyle Anderson, 20%. Jaylen Brown, 19.4, and then we have Hachimura at 17%. So when the ownership is that close,
I'm just going with the guy who I say like, hey, this is who I think is the best play of the group. I'm not looking at, 1 or 4% difference in ownership and making that something that's like a big decision maker for me. It's just, this is my preferred play at small forward.
Very fair.
All right, so let's talk about, let's go position by position now. And we could start with Kyrie Irving. The Nets, the point guard position. Kyrie is my favorite spend-up option on the slate on both FanDuel and DraftKings. You look at his numbers this year when you take James Harden and Kevin Durant off the court. All of the usage is going to Kyrie Irving. He's also going to have that ball in his hands a ton. So the assist rate, I assume that could be pretty significant in this game. And then also look at the total here. We've got a 241.5 point total between the Brooklyn Nets and the Portland Trailblazers. The next closest game is 229 between the Washington Wizards and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I think more as a FanDuel play, I think if you stack up Damian Lillard and Kyrie Irving in the same lineup, I really love the correlation there. Dame is really more of a FanDuel play for me than a DraftKings play, but Kyrie Irving, I understand he's really popular, but still, hey, I'm chalk master flex today. We've said this already, but I'm right there with Kyrie Irving. It's hard for me to get away from him.
Oh, you mean the best plays on the slate again? Just
yeah.
How could you? How could you in any way, shape, or form? I'm there with you as well. Damian Lillard is actually my highest owned point guard over on FanDuel. As you talked about, they've had two absolute schlackings back and forth. He's missed out on a complete rotation, hasn't played fourth quarters against Indiana or Memphis there. They won by 21 last time out. They won by 21 the game before that. If you were to see 38, 39 minutes from Dame, he's started to perform much better, even alongside McCollum and Powell there, 37 fantasy points at 8K. It's a different conversation talking about Damian Lillard. Like, I'm happy to be well over the field and target that upside. I only have 4 point guards in my pool on FanDuel out of 50 lineups. Kyrie Irving.
Wait, can I guess them? Can I guess them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. This isn't going to be hard. It's Lillard, Irving, Holiday, and Westbrook.
Those are the 4 that I don't really see any other reason, because they just stand out so much more. If I were going to play somebody down there, like I thought I was going to get to some Ben Simmons, he kind of got removed. Kobe White, I thought I was going to maybe get to a little bit, playing mid minutes at 6,300. But I think those 4 specifically, mixing and matching them because of the ridiculous ceilings they each have here, I'll just kind of I'll take my shots with that and kind of live with the result.
All right. We did get another super chat here. This one from A.V. Schreier. Boy, I probably did not pronounce that correctly, but all right. He's saying Daniel Tice or Thad Young on FanDuel. I think that Thad Young is the better play of the two. Do you feel any differently than that?
No, Thad Young's better, but I'm probably going to be a little bit under on both. Yeah,
Thad Young is super, super popular today.
Crazy.
And also somebody in the YouTube chat had asked, why is Vucevic out? He's not out. He might have injury tag on the sites right now. I haven't looked, but he's officially listed as probable to play. That's not problematic to me. I assume that that Vucevic will be in, no real issues there. We do have Zach LaVine still out because he's in the health and safety protocols. But Thad Young, just if we look at number one, the Bulls are pushing for a playoff spot right now. But then you look at the minutes from the last couple of games, they've spiked a little bit. So Thad Young, the last 2 games, has played 26 and 29 minutes after his minutes were kind of in the neighborhood of 15 to 21 minutes per game. So just that uptick in minutes is what's driving Thad Young's ownership up and is what makes him a good value play for this slate. And another super chat here from James Hood. He's asking, for whatever reason, I really like John Collins tonight, even with Trey and Capela back. Should I play him in cash?
No.
I don't even know what that other something GPP. Both or neither. I am not on John Collins tonight.
Yeah, that's a definite no. Do not play him in cash. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Yeah, so it's not only that we have those guys back. Let me pull John Collins up really quickly. So Clint Capela has been in and out of the lineup a little bit as of late, and obviously John Collins gets a really big boost when he's off the court. This is also a brutal matchup against the Philadelphia 76ers. And then if you just look at the game log for Clint Capela, what is there to like? When's the last time you would say he had a ceiling game? Just off the top of your head, when's the last time that Clint Capela had a game that actually mattered on a slate? I probably rostered him. It would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, he got moved up to 10K after he went completely berserk on something. I don't remember. So 3 weeks ago, I'll say.
It was March 26th against the Warriors. He had 38 points and 12 rebounds. He has not scored over 35 fantasy points in a single game since then. So there's just, and also it's not like all of a sudden his price has gotten nerfed, right? It's not like all of a sudden we're getting John Collins like 5,800 or something like that, which by the way, he was at one point earlier in the season, and probably rightfully so because his production has struggled alongside Clint Capela. But it's been so long since we've seen a good game from John Collins, and I don't think this is a spot for him to break out. So no John Collins for me. And by the way, we have another super chat here, the Daily Scrum News, who's leaving us Canadian money, that nice colorful Monopoly box. I love it. Appreciate what you guys do. Cheers from Canada, eh? Yep, he did. He threw it in there. So there we go. I appreciate it. We've got fans from all over the place. But by the way, we've got news here. Unexpected news. Mo Wagner starting for the Orlando Magic in place of Chuma Okeke. So Mo Wagner, that means he's going to be starting in the front court alongside Wendell Carter Jr. So what do you make of this news?
I mean, WTF? Did you in any way, shape, or form? First of all, I'm going to be honest. I didn't know Mo Wagner was on Orlando. I'm not even going to lie to you. I know that he got waived. Mo Wagner, is he seriously on Orlando?
He is seriously on Orlando. Not only is he on them, he's starting, by the way.
He's not in the player pool on DraftKings, I don't think. Mo Wagner. He's not there.
Is he really not in the player pool?
Oh, there he is. 3K. Nope, power forward. I got it. I kept putting in MOE as opposed to MOR. So I couldn't find him as I was pulling him up. 3K flat, gonna start, played 9 minutes last time out? Oh no. Is this really a thing? Recently signed, could see limited minutes. All right. Now he's gonna start. That's fantastic. I have no idea what to think of this yet. I'm gonna run some stuff.
Not a bad points per minute fantasy producer this year, playing 12.7 minutes per game, scoring 12.14 DraftKings points. Last year, he played 18.6 minutes per game, averaged 18.38 DraftKings points per minute. I'm going to see what the ownership is here. I think there's a good chance if Mo Wagner is not going to be popular, I think he's a really good pivot off of Alize Johnson. He's a good points per minute fantasy producer. I have no confidence in how many minutes Johnson's going to play tonight. So if Wagner's going to be low owned and Johnson's going to be really popular, I think that's a good pivot.
Okay, so let's just look at the rotations then too, because I think Orlando, they've just been playing. There's certain guys that they've just kind of been playing a bunch of here from that last game. They played Cleveland. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 guys. He played that 8-minute deal. I mean, it's not going to be like a 1-for-1 swap in for Okeke. I don't expect Okeke played 27 minutes in that last one, started. So now we put Wagner there. I mean, 20 minutes, 3K. I'm going to get to some for sure. Nearly a fantasy point per minute guy. I don't know what that ownership's going to get to in the next 23 minutes, but I am pretty sure I'm going to get to some. And that game's not for another hour and a half. So that ownership will have time to get there, actually.
Crap. Yeah. And then to what I said before, Mo Wagner versus Alize Johnson. Let me see if we have what was the ownership for Alize in the most recent run of ownership. I'm just going to refresh the page. And
how about both now? Both is going to make it really, really fun. I mean, imagine your lineups now. Kyrie, Westbrook, throw in some Tatum on the top end. Joel Embiid as a contrarian spend up. It got extra Starsy and Scrubsy if Mo Wagner is going to go off today.
So we do have a run of ownership from 2 minutes ago. Alize Johnson is projected for 9% ownership on FanDuel, but on DraftKings coming in at 24% ownership. So Alize, I was already kind of wary of Alize Johnson. I understand he has substantial upside on this slate. And if he breaks the slate, I wouldn't be surprised. I've personally been looking for pivots all day. I said earlier when we were asked about him right out of the gate, I said I had him in 5% of my lineups. And it's really just because I'm looking for other cheap guys to get off Alize Johnson. I like Bryn Forbes, who is also popular, but I think there's more security there than with Alize Johnson. I just have no clue how many minutes he's going to play tonight because there's still Blake Griffin in the rotation, right? DeAndre Jordan can get minutes. I don't know that Alize Johnson is just going to come out and play, 24 minutes or something like that. And at the very least, the minutes floor for Mo Wagner, we have to consider it higher than Johnson's, right?
Yes. For sure. Unless, and again, and this is where it gets interesting. So we have both of the games locking at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And if you lock in 2, 3K spots, we're going to have plenty of swaps. You're going to have enough people in your pool later on, especially with that Chicago-Milwaukee game, that it shouldn't be terribly hard to make pivots work. But you can basically secure a 3K spot. And if you get Alize Johnson starting, you can kind of mix and match a little bit. But Mo Wagner just kind of sticks out now as I'm going through here. I just put him in for 21 minutes and I'm getting an absolute bunch of him. We'll see what Awesemo ends up coming in for an update. But I think at 21 minutes for a floor, if you gave me that with Mo Wagner right now, I would have an absolute ton of him.
All right. By the way, we did get a follow-up super chat from Avi Schreier, who said, "This is how you pronounce my name," and he spelled it out phonetically. Am I supposed to pronounce that many W's and V's? Because it's Avi Schreier. So, all right, I think I pronounced it correctly there based on the phonetic spelling, but thank you for the follow-up, and I'll try to compartmentalize that so I get it correct next time. Super chat here from Darren Unger for FanDuel. He's asking Lillard and Clarkson or Holiday Halliburton. I don't think you could go wrong with either of those options. Those are both really strong, but Lillard and Clarkson or Holiday and Halliburton for you?
If you're making me pick one, I'm going to go the Holiday Halliburton. But I mean, no, I'm probably going to go Lillard Clarkson. I lied. I'm going to have an absolute ton of everybody listed there.
Yeah, it is Lillard Clarkson for me, but both of those are good combinations. I don't have any issue with either of them. And then we have another super chat here from our friend Matt Gates here. He's saying FanDuel, Brown and Melton or Jingles and Halliburton. That's another tough one for me. I'm going to lean towards Joe Ingles and Tyrese Halliburton though.
On FD specifically, I don't have as much interest in going to Melton whatsoever. On DraftKings, I think it makes a lot of sense, but at shooting guard, 4,300, a lot less interesting to me than over on DraftKings.
All right. And Charles, super chat from our friend Charles here. Would fading someone like Trae Young be smart since he's likely to have a minutes restriction? Maybe pivot to Shake Milton. And this is a DraftKings Showdown question. All right. So Showdown is very differently from the main slate. When he first said, until we got to the end, I was pretty confused, right? Because I hadn't read this ahead of time, but I was like,
Shake who?
From,
what?
Yeah, I was like, why would you be pivoting to Shake Milton from Trae Young? For a DK Showdown purpose, though, I would still be okay with Trae Young because just look at that game against the Philadelphia 76ers, right? The Phillies favored by 7 points. It's pretty likely to be a somewhat one-sided contest unless Trae Young has a really big game. If Trae Young stinks in that game, if his ankle is really bothering him, it's hard for me to think the Hawks keep that game really competitive. So from a lineup construction purpose, especially for Showdown, I wouldn't go from Trae Young all the way down to Shake Milton.
Agreed.
All right. And another super chat here from Noah DeKumis. He's asking us on, but I absolutely butcher everybody's names. I'm sorry, but I'm trying my best. This is the best I could do. All right. FanDuel GPP, Halliburton. And by the way, Tyrese Halliburton is in every single 2v2 question that we're getting.
Insane. Yeah. So, I was going to say, he's somebody that kind of was just showing up in lineups on FanDuel, and I didn't really have to think about it all that much.
Yeah. Well, now you do. He's in every single 2v2
I guess so.
We're get the entire night. But, Noah here is asking us Halliburton and Brooks or Clarkson and Harris. I assume that he means Gary Harris.
Yeah, let's go with the Halliburton Brooks.
Yep, same for me. Tyrese Halliburton and Dylan Brooks. Also, Dylan Brooks should benefit from Grayson Allen is officially listed as doubtful. He's currently a game time decision, but I still go with when somebody's listed as doubtful. I'm going to side and assume that he's not going to end up playing. By the way, Noah saying I pronounced it perfectly. There we go. I'm very excited about that. Nice. From Arcathelza. Actually, I think this is kind of an interesting talking point. He's asking us, is LeBron in play on DraftKings at 9,900, and how many minutes do we expect him to play? I expect him to play limited minutes. I think he's going to be very similar to what we saw from Anthony Davis when Anthony Davis first came back, right? We've seen LeBron extended layoff. He's coming back. These regular season games do not matter all that much to the Los Angeles Lakers. And considering that we've seen something, fairly similar with Anthony Davis, he came back, he played 17 minutes the first game. That might be a little extreme, but then he played 28 minutes then before it finally got to around the 30-minute mark. But we still haven't seen Anthony Davis play a full minutes allotment, even after he's been active for 4 games. So with all that said, LeBron James first game back, I'm going to sit on it, wait to see how many minutes he plays, and then wait for him to get, really caught up to speed before I consider him in DFS lineups. But did you get any exposure to LeBron tonight?
No, 0%.
Okay. So we're on the same page there. And all right, that is going to cover all of the super chats. We're finally caught up with those. And nice. Probably as I say that, something else will come out. And by the way, we're caught up with injury news too. Like this is incredible. No super chat or injury news for us to go over at the same time. By the way, we did officially get the starting lineup for the Cleveland Cavaliers: Darius Garland, Colin Sexton, Isaac Okoro, Kevin Love, and Jared Allen. So that means Chetty Osman, who was a chalk play for a little bit there, performed very admirably in the role. But the way the Cavs like to use him is, hey, if Chetty's starting, he's playing 38 minutes for us. If he's coming off the bench, he's basically not in the rotation. So
yep, it's an all or nothing for him. He's one of the all or nothing guys, which I'm hoping is not the case for Alize Johnson today. Oh boy.
Oh, we've got Mo Wagner himself right here in the YouTube chat. By the way, do you want to start? Do you want to circle back on that? Do you have any updated feelings on Mo Wagner's minutes?
I don't think we have an update yet. I'm trying to run. I mean, that's literally. I mean, it's a huge question on this slate now because I mean, you have Mo Wagner and Alize Johnson at the min on Fanduel. I'm not sure how much you really need to go crazy on either of them there, but on DraftKings, you get two guys at 3K that can give you access to Russ Westbrook. And for me, the guy that I want to be over the field on that I just can't right now, it's just a product of the slate, is Joel Embiid. Going up against Atlanta, I just want to be over top of the field there, and I can't really do it without forcing in a little bit of both of them, and do it comfortably the way that I want my builds to look. I'm just having a tough time thinking that I don't want to try to play a lot of both of them now today because of the upside that I create in my lineups. And, you know, if they both put up 15, 16 and you still get those massive upsides, it's really hard. Like if they were 4,500 or 5K, that's a completely different question. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But at 3K, it's just such a make or break spot on this slate.
So we got an updated run of ownership, although Mo Wagner's still not projecting for any ownership on DraftKings or FanDuel at the moment. Boy, I would love for that to be the case through lock. So it's definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye on for what the expectation is for his ownership. Alize Johnson still over 20%. By the way, an update on Yahoo, like we said before, the NBA Big Baller Contest, that has filled. However, there is a second bigger contest. They opened up an $8,000 prize pool contest, $2,000 to first place. That still has about 400 entries left. So guys, if you want to go and check out Yahoo NBA DFS, go sign up, use the promo code Awesemo if you're a new user over at Yahoo. And if you use that promo code, make a deposit, you get $30 in free contest entries. So all the reasons to go sign up for Yahoo and get some free money and help build your bankroll there. And like we said, 400 entries left in the $8,000 prize pool contest. So let's move on and just talk about some of our most exposed players right now, going position by position. A little bit hard at this point just because we have so much news that's come across. So kind of like a quick overview. We already talked about point guards, but shooting guards, which guys at the shooting guard position are you most exposed to right now, Eric?
So we talked a little bit about Halliburton, Clarkson, Evan Fournier over on FanDuel really kind of sticks out to me as well. 4,600 over there. It's just a great price to kind of be locking in. We can't pay up for absolutely everybody on this slate, but those are my three highest. McCollum was popping up earlier for me, and I'm not really sure what I want to do with him yet. That's kind of going to be what I need to figure out. So this power forward position just kind of has ramifications on what you're going to do with the rest of your lineups. Cause like Bobby Portis is at 30% right now over on FanDuel, and he's your highest owned power forward. And so like, if I'm able to get off of them and I can pay up for a guy like Bradley Beal to get contrarian at shooting guard, I kind of am really, really interested in trying to go that route as well. But that's something I got to figure out here in the next 13 minutes.
Yeah, definitely running out of time. By the way, speaking of Bradley Beal and the Wizards, every time I'm going to, because I've been tinkering with Mo Wagner, kind of trying to figure out what I want to do with them as we go. I keep looking at the Wizards and their roster when I'm looking at Mo Wagner and not the Orlando Magic. I've made that mistake so many times while we've been on the show. But Mo Wagner,
I was spelling his name M-O-E because I just thought it was Mo, and I couldn't find him in the player pool period. And then it's Mo, it's M-O-R. You got to start that way.
I have him in 40% of my lineups on DraftKings right now, and
55 for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And what about? So, are you higher or lower on Alize Johnson then?
I'm lower on Alize Johnson,
okay.
And that's kind of a result. I'm right around 35% of him there. He's tempered off a little bit, but I'm playing a lot of both of them together, and I think that that's kind of the way that. I mean, this today could just go so wonky here at this point. I mean, it's too late. I'm entered. I'm in all the things that I'm going to do here. And again, playing 3 sites today, this is going to be a fun one. I'm pretty stoked about it. I got to say, I am very excited to have half an hour to be able to kind of devote over to Yahoo, to be able to kind of focus and think about it and not like really obsess over DraftKings or FanDuel, not really worrying about any of my builds there. Cause a lot of that news, like those 3K guys, if we get Alize Johnson, like starting for whatever reason whatsoever, we still have another half an hour after that to be able to kind of adjust. So it'll be nice to really focus on Yahoo over there.
So the shooting guards that I have the most exposure to right now on DraftKings are Bryn Forbes. I think that he's kind of a no-brainer play with the injuries that the Bucks are dealing with, especially now that Dante DiVincenzo's out. D'Anthony Melton, he is shooting guard eligibility on DraftKings, 3,900 price tag. I think that makes him quite a bit of a different play than he is at FanDuel, where he's at 4,300. I think he's viable on both sites, but certainly on DraftKings, the better play, a little more flexibility, easier to fit him into lineups. I think Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, they also both have shooting guard eligibility. I'm going to be over the top of the field on Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. We talked about that a little bit before. And by the way, more super chats. Also, we have Mo Wagner is in our YouTube chat. I wish he would tell us how many minutes he's going to play, but he is, he's in there. Mo Wagner, Mo Problems. What else he said?
God, just give us the answers.
So let's hit some of these super chats. So Justin Bruce, he's saying Allen or Nurkic, DraftKings single entry. That is Jared Allen for me.
It's going to be Nurkic for me, actually. And I know he's been playing more limited minutes, but I got to stick to that feeling that I have. I get a little bit uncomfortable having Sexton back in the rotation to really identify an upside there for Allen. So if I'm playing like a single entry or something, I'm going to have a little bit of both of them here, but I think Nurkic is probably the guy I'd prefer a little bit now.
Would it be weird if I told you that in that price range, I have the most exposure to DeAndre Ayton of that group? I know he's a little bit cheaper than those guys.
That is not what I expected. You are not the chalk master flex. He's low teens, but that's a guy that I didn't really get to any of. So sell me on him.
All right. So first of all, as good as Rudy Gobert is as an individual defender, we've seen centers have a lot of success against the Utah Jazz over the last few seasons. And the other thing to consider also is it matters to me the gravity of this game. This is a game for the number one overall seed, not just in the Western Conference, but for the best record in the NBA. And whoever has that top seed really holds a lot of the cards, because right now it looks like there's a chance that the number one seed in the West is going to avoid playing potentially against. So let's say the Suns take the one seed. They could potentially avoid playing the Utah Jazz, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Los Angeles Clippers until the Western Conference Finals, just the way that the bracket is setting up right now. So that number one overall seed matters a ton. So with that in mind, DeAndre Ayton, who's also played a little bit better as of late, or at least we've seen more upside from over the last month. We've seen a handful of 40-plus DraftKings points games from him at just a 6,500 price tag on DraftKings. And also, like I said, due to the gravity of this game, I think we're going to see Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton. I think all of those guys are going to play a couple more minutes than they normally play. So I gave them more minutes, and that just overall boosts their projection for me. By the way, I didn't get to Chris Paul or Devin Booker, but I did boost their projection. It just wasn't enough for me to get to them. But Ayton I did end up with.
Okay. Sounds all pretty reasonable to me. I don't particularly love center the way that I have on most slates in recent weeks. Jonas Valanciunas and Drummond, I feel pretty good about in the mid-range. I really am trying to get to more Embiid, and I'm not liking just basically being so overexposed to the 3K guys here. It just feels so thin. It could just go so wonky if they don't play. If Mo Wagner plays 14 minutes, I wouldn't be completely shocked, but I got to think that with no Kiki, that he's still going to get run into the 20s here. I got to think with Alize Johnson coming off yesterday that Steve Nash isn't going to debilitate him. And so I feel all right with that. But yeah, if you wanted to play in that mid-range, like DeAndre Ayton, that's definitely an all right way to be more secure at center.
All right. Jeff Mitsef, he left us a $10 super chat. No question there. So if you meant to ask a question, definitely at me in the YouTube chat, and then I can answer your question also. But right now, nothing written there right now. Anime Lingo has left us a super chat, just an emoji there. It says fist bump. That is a chicken who is doing something, but it says fist bump on his fist. So, all right, we got that. And then another one from Anime Lingo right there. He says, okay. I know who this is now. I didn't put two and two together. So this was somebody in our premium Slack chat, Anime Lingo. He was having some issues with, he wasn't sure how to use some of the features in Fantasy Cruncher. So I hopped on Zoom with him earlier in the day and went over some of that stuff with him. So by the way, that is
human being. That is, it's disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah, that is, by the way, also all the benefits you get if you sign up for an Awesemo Plus subscription. You come message, and this is how codependent I am, by the way. Somebody comes to me with a problem, I'm trying to solve it. So I'm jumping in Zoom with our customers, trying to figure stuff out. So anyway, yeah, all the more reason to sign up also for an Awesemo Plus membership. Let's go over the small forward position. Chris Middleton also has shooting guard and small forward eligibility on DraftKings. I think he's the best play on FanDuel at the small forward position. Also high priority for DraftKings small forward. How much are you getting to Chris Middleton at this point? I know you said overweight to the field, but how heavily overweight to the field? A lot, a little, or a legit?
Well, the answer's a lot. Yeah,
Okay.
the answer's a lot. I'm at 75%. So I'm right there with you. Then Rui's my number 2 guy. I think we talked about him a little bit earlier. And Joe Ingles. So outside of the Rui play, definitely staying on brand to chalk master flex.
I think that's sensible, especially when it comes to Chris Middleton. Is there anybody at the small forward position that's kind of off the board that you're getting to?
I was going to get a little bit of Patrick Williams earlier. I still think that you can, but I'm not playing. So I'm playing a limited 50 lineups over there today on FanDuel, playing 211 over on DraftKings. So I was focusing on that a little bit more. But I think Patrick Williams definitely has some viability. He's at the min now. Like, that's really what it comes down to. 3,500 of a guy that is playing now low 20s minutes, which isn't pretty whatsoever. But I wouldn't be surprised. Like, him and Lauri Markkanen are both guys that I think I was going to take tournament shots on a little bit earlier before we got Alize Johnson, Mo Wagner over on DK. I think on FanDuel, there still is a little bit of a path for him to possibly go out there, get some stocks in low 20s minutes. And he's had that one game against Miami where he did spike 25.4% usage, did nothing with it whatsoever, but could take a shot or two there if you really needed to like go completely stars and scrubs, but not getting there anymore.
So we have a question here from Mr. Moneybags in our premium Slack chat. He's asking, do we have any love for Mo Bamba tonight? And I had him in some of my lineups until we got the Mo Wagner news. That really lowered my ownership to him. So I have Mo Bamba in 15% of my lineups right now. He was like a fairly significant piece until we got that Mo Wagner lineup, because then I was just forced to give Wagner more minutes, and he was not somebody who I really thought was going to play all that many minutes before. So to me, the Mo Wagner starting has to hurt the upside of Bamba a little bit, not to the point where he's an outright fade to me, but it definitely lowered my exposure to him. So does the Mo Wagner news impact your exposure to Bamba at all?
Yeah, I'm still going to get there for right around that. I think I'm going to get to around 10% here on DK. I'm just finishing that up here now at 5K, 5,700. No point really going there. I think I had one share out of my 50 with him. Yahoo, he's $14. And I really, that kind of stood out to me over there. So on a site that's going to be a little bit tighter in pricing as we get over there, I think you're going to see some interest going towards Mo Bamba there. So it's nice playing 3 sites today. I can kind of get my exposure to him over there. I feel a little bit more comfortable at $14 there, where the minimum's $10. And you'll kind of see the way that works out salary wise later. But at 5K on DK, still getting a little bit, but not nearly as essential as he was before.
All right, we got another super chat here from D Niz. Also, there's no question right there. But if you do have a if you do have a question for us, feel free to @ me. Although there's a lot of stuff in there, so it's going to be a little hard for me to see it, and I'll try to with only 3 minutes left. And then Soldope 1234, our guy today, says going chalky tonight. He has a few pivots in there, but let's eat. So there we go. He gets a show with us together, and right there, he's just jumping on. Soldope 1234. He's in on it. He's chalk master flexing it up with us, and I love it. I think this is a good night for as long as you're playing the good chalk plays, right? Like
Alize Johnson's great chalk. I feel really, really great about it. I am really good at DFS.
By the way, Alize Johnson's the one chalk play who I am now. Let's see. So Alize Johnson I have in 10% of my lineups right now, so I'm going to be pretty underweight to the field on him. That could absolutely destroy me.
So we're jumping over to power forward next. I just want to know, and I don't know if there's like a gigantic I don't even know how I could gauge what the possibility of this happening is. But if you were to get Alize Johnson starting, how do your lineups change?
Drastically, because then Alize Johnson gets into like all my line. I don't think that's going to happen though.
What if I would say it's a greater than 10% chance, which is like on the radar for it. Played a lot more minutes than Harris. How about Jeff Green yesterday too? Played awesome. I felt really good about that pivot. I know Isaiah Stewart tried to kill me, but Jeff Green still having exposure to him kind of saved my night quite a bit. But like going that direction again. I don't know. 20 minutes of Alize. If you give me 20 minutes of Alize Johnson at 3K right now, I think I'd be okay with making that play every single time. I don't really know what to make of it at the moment.
Yeah, so he played 32 minutes yesterday. Obviously, he destroyed. Yep. He destroyed. He had 20 points and 20 rebounds. He played 0 minutes in 3 games before then. So I like Deandre Jordan wasn't in the rotation yesterday. I think there's a good chance Deandre Jordan plays minutes. Also, it wasn't a competitive game yesterday, so that also helped his minutes. I don't know. Like, I think that the ownership for him, I'm willing to make pivots elsewhere. I think it's a very high variance play, right? If Alize Johnson destroys the slate, I would not be surprised if that's absolutely what could kill me. That's the number one thing my slate is hinging on right now. But Mo Wagner to me is a really good pivot. So I'm fine with that. By the way, really quick right here, we do have a super chat from Naz Richardson. One that we got before also, Jonas Valanciunas or Jared Allen, just 1 minute to lock. So why don't you reiterate what you said before?
Yeah, so Jared Allen's going to get a couple more minutes more than likely, but I think J-Val is just the more significant centerpiece. Now you're going to have three bigs basically out there. Now you can throw Mo Wagner into the equation as well, but you basically get two true centers back to back in what's his face? This is not uploading. This is freaking me out. Hold up, and I'll answer. J-Val for sure. There we go.
Right.
Survival.
Hold up. Wait a minute. All right. So we are almost to lock. And guys, Eric and I are not going anywhere. We do have lock coming up, but for the next 30 minutes, Eric and I are going to be sticking around. We're going to be talking about Yahoo. And even if you're not sure if you're going to be playing on Yahoo, guess what? Stick around anyway, because you know what's probably going to happen? Starting lineups are going to be coming out. Players are going to get late scratch. You know how I know it's going to happen? Because it happens all the time. We've seen Eric cry on the air when something happened with Paul George. You don't want to miss that. It could happen at any given moment.
Easy. We have sponsors watching. Don't do that to me. I would never do such a thing.
Hey,
I would not cry on air.
Listen, it's good content. It's good content when you get upset, and okay. I don't think anybody wants to miss that. And that's the only way you could see somebody get scratched after lock, so you stick around after lock to listen to us talk for the next 30 minutes about the Yahoo NBA DFS slate. And also some other things we're going to be hitting on is that Yahoo is also pushing. They have new single game contests. So the prize pools are not big for them yet. However, if they get interest in them, if they start to fill, I know they're trying to expand those. So the number one way to say to Yahoo that, hey, we have interest in these, we want to have bigger prize pools, go enter, fill them up, and then that will definitely encourage them to start pushing bigger prize pools. So for now, that is going to bring us to NBA lock. So for DraftKings and Fanduel guys, everybody, good luck. I hope your lineups do well. I hope that Alize Johnson doesn't score 1 million fantasy points tonight. If you played him and he does score 1 million fantasy points, then good for you. By the way, if he ends up starting, we're going to have to change that. But as of right now, I'm underweight to the field on Alize Johnson. But here we go. Yahoo. Guys, if you have not already signed up for Yahoo, use the promo code Awesemo, and you get $30 in free contest entries when you sign up for the first time. That is the promo code Awesemo. Also, they were running a very big contest tonight, the $25K NBA Big Baller contest. That is already filled, but fear not, because they have launched a second contest and also locking at 7:30. So we've got another 29 minutes to enter, and it is about halfway full right now. So still entries available right there. But let's dive into the Yahoo slate now, Eric. And now also talking about Yahoo, something about it, there's only been one game that's locked so far. So a lot of the players that we liked already on FanDuel and DraftKings, we figured to like them on Yahoo as well, right? Although the pricing is different. So there's going to be some minor differences, but for the most part, a lot of the value plays are going to be the same. But have you run lineups for Yahoo? And if you have, I'm curious, who are some of the players that may have stood out to you on Yahoo that are priced differently from FanDuel and DraftKings that are interested you there that weren't on the main slate for today?
Yeah, so that's kind of the fun of playing over on Yahoo. It generally ends up being a little bit tighter pricing. It's harder to find some of the cheaper plays that you're kind of interested in. Now, that being said, we just got Mo Wagner. He's at $10. We had Alize Johnson at $10. I think that being the minimum, I think I'm going to be prioritizing Mo Wagner much more over there now, although I will have lineups with both. What really gets fun about playing over there is that you can't just go completely stars and scrubs every single time. You can try. But it is awfully hard. Like Russell Westbrook, maybe at $56 is still a little bit underpriced. Kyrie Irving, $48. But just the way that the salary structure works out, you have to tend to go a little bit more balanced on an average slate. I don't know if I would consider this to be your typical average slate by any means, but looking at the top end, we're going to get a lot of the same plays. It's not going to get crazy different for those studs that we're paying up for. We're not going to have to go crazy also on that bottom end, but finding some pivots to go to like $14 at $11, because you do have kind of the same salary or the same lineup builds as what you're going to have on DraftKings, where it's point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and then center utility. You can play the two center lineups. You can do a lot of the same things that you're doing over on DraftKings GPPs. But the salary structure is just a lot more enjoyable, a lot more fun. And there's a huge edge if you put in the time to be able to go through it.
All right. And by the way, something else that we do have is Yahoo ownership projections. So actually, I think that's kind of something interesting to look on. Let me just refresh this so we get the most recent run of Yahoo ownership projections, which you do have right now up at Awesemo.com. The most exposed players overall on Yahoo right now. Once again, I didn't hawk for likes, guys. I didn't go and beg everybody to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I just believed in the good-natured faith of the people in the YouTube chat that you go ahead and do it. So if you haven't done that, please do it. If not, do it right now because I'm about to read off some of the ownership projections. So these are the 5 most rostered players on Yahoo as of now. Let's start 5 and work our way up. We've got Nikola Vucevic, $39. He is the player with the 5th most exposure on Yahoo. Bobby Portis, only $13. That to me is one of the big differences between Fanduel and Draftkings. Bobby Portis, nearly the min price on Yahoo. Obviously, $13. That is very cheap. So that's a different amount of the salary cap that he's using there as opposed to Fanduel and Draftkings. Chris Middleton, $30. So he's fairly cheap. He's not been priced up for Giannis being out. Anthony Davis, still only $31. That's pretty interesting. Also very popular, 42.8% ownership. And the most popular player on all of Yahoo, I think is going a little bit over-owned here, though. Thad Young at $16, 43.8% ownership. What do you make of Thad Young as the most popular play on Yahoo tonight?
I'm making 5 lineups, and I will have him in 0 of them is kind of the way that I put it. I think that there's a lot of pivots to be going to. Now we do have some cheaper pieces that we had already talked about in Mo Wagner. Don't have to go to Alize Johnson and burn with me. That's not what you have to do. But I think Bobby Portis, $13. Just prioritize a couple of those guys on the bottom end. It feels $16 is just maybe a little bit too much to be going to for Thad. Doesn't necessarily have like that 40-point ceiling or 35-point ceiling that really I think I'd be targeting with some of these other guys. I'd rather go to somebody who's just at the flat $10 and really stars and scrubs it as much as I can on Yahoo today.
All right, guys. And then something else here, just quick news item. Grayson Allen, he's officially been ruled out. He was doubtful. He was a game time decision while also being listed as doubtful, but he is officially out there. So kind of curious. Let's look at some of the ownership for the Memphis guys on Yahoo because we have DeAnthony Melton, who was a very popular play on FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight. Also somebody rated out extremely well in our boom bust tool on Awesemo.com. DeAnthony Melton, $12 on Yahoo, picking up 14% ownership. So to me, he is the value play that gains the most with Grayson Allen officially being out. $12 on Yahoo for Melton. Is that a play that interests you?
Yeah, it is. And we also got some news. Robert Williams is starting. So that becomes very, very interesting. You're not going to get Tristan Thompson out there starting, but DeAnthony Melton, yeah, no problem going there. We just got the official word on Grayson Allen. I think that's about appropriate for him. He's not somebody that I really peg as like an exciting roster by any means. I'm probably going to have him in one of my lineups, but I'm not going to go crazy. I think sitting down there at that lower ownership, that's about right for him.
All right. So let's hit on the Robert Williams news really quick. And just talking about him overall, by the way, I wasn't sure if he was going to start or come off the bench today. He wasn't somebody who was in my player pool. But now that he's starting, something else that I think talking about him overall, because you can't just look at his numbers as a starter this year, because obviously most of those starts came, a few weeks ago when Tristan Thompson was out. What do you expect him to play minutes wise? Obviously, he dealt with the knee injury for a really long time. He missed, missed about 2.5 weeks of games. Then he returned last game, only played 17 minutes. What do you think we're looking at here? Because I'm gonna assume that he still doesn't play the full allotment of minutes he was getting before getting hurt.
Yeah, I think that's about right. But even if you put him in for 24 minutes, he's a 1.3 DraftKings points per minute producer. Looking over on Yahoo for him, what is his price there today? $26. So he's probably not going to be in play for me. Those center positions are very, very valuable today. You can play 2 over there. Now we have some guys down at that bottom end. We talked about Portis, who's center only over there. So that's going to take up a lot of my center spots, I believe. And then Mo Bamba was a tournament play at $14. I think I'd really rather take my shots on Mo Bamba getting 22 minutes, where I know that that's going to be what his run is kind of guaranteed. If that game blows out, I think you see some extra run going his direction too. And considering they're 12.5 point dogs, there's a decent enough chance of that happening. So the inverse, like I know we don't ever try to figure out what blowouts are going to, like when they're going to happen. But I think being able to play a guy who is guaranteed to play 22, who has upside in a blowout, is a better way of looking at it than somebody who has downside.
Yeah. And then, so something else, just talking about him as a Yahoo specific play where, you had said that he is, let's see, who are the players who are priced around him? So we have Robert Williams at $26, DeAndre Ayton also at $26, Jusuf Nurkic, $27, Jared Allen, $30, Valanciunas, $31. So given what that pricing is, I like Nurkic the most of that group at $27. So I understand that Robert Williams played really well when he was starting before, and we've seen Nurkic kind of on a minutes restriction as of late, but it's not like I don't think that Nurkic's minutes are going to be vastly different than Robert Williams. And Nurkic, we still have a longer history of him as a high points per minute fantasy producer. So give me Nurkic at that same price point over Robert Williams. I'm going to read off those names to you: Jonas Valanciunas, Jared Allen, Jusuf Nurkic, Robert Williams, DeAndre Ayton. Of that group, and which of those names stands out the most to you?
Yeah, I think Nurkic as well. Ayton, that's just not as big of a difference. So $1 there, it kind of depends where the rest of your build's going to take you. I do think it's very nice to be able to see like the single digit values as opposed to, even just the extra zeros on the back end of DraftKings and Fanduel. It just kind of makes it a little easier to think about for me. To be able to look at Robert Williams and be like, all right, he's the exact same prices. Like on DraftKings, you're looking at Ayton being 6,500. Robert Williams can't really sniff getting to price tag like that. So he's going to be a huge downgrade for me. I still think Nurkic, out of that entire grouping, I'm going to go Nurkic. We've talked about a little bit of my concerns about Jared Allen. That can be mitigated a little bit by how good the matchup is against Washington, but I'm going to kind of take my stand against him today.
All right. Robert Williams, what was he projected for ownership wise on Yahoo? He was picking up, zero ownership, basically 0.1%. And then his Fanduel ownership for Robert Williams, he was at 1%. All right, actually looking at his ownership, I'm going to try to get to Robert Williams because these are like ridiculously low numbers. 3% on DraftKings, where we can roster two centers. We can roster two centers on Yahoo as well. He's picking up no ownership today. So Robert Williams, unless that changes, I'm trying to get him in right now. He looks like a really good GPP play.
Especially on DraftKings or on Yahoo, where you're able to play two centers. I think that mitigates it a little bit. Being your solo center there, 5,300. Maybe I'll get to a little bit there too. I'm going to kind of rerun it. I think I might get to a little bit. I lied.
Yeah. And then, who I think he makes a really good pivot off of, although Bobby Portis also has power forward eligibility, but if Bobby Portis, since he does take up a center spot, I think that Robert Williams now becomes a pretty good pivot off of Robert Williams becomes a good pivot off of Bobby Portis. Those were the names I was trying to match up right there, because Portis is so popular. And it's not like Robert Williams, like you said, he's such a good points per minute fantasy producer that I think firing him up in there and maybe trying to get off some Bobby Portis and move it over to Robert Williams, that makes a whole bunch of sense. So that is definitely something I'm looking at. By the way, still no starting lineup for the Nets. That's going to be pretty important. But we do have a starting lineup for the San Antonio Spurs. DeJounte Murray, Devin Vassell picking up another start, then DeMar DeRozan, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl. So the other day, Devin Vassell did start and played fairly well, at least relative to his price point. He was able to put up 18 DraftKings points at minimum price. But Devin Vassell, to me, there's enough value plays on the slate. There's no reason to go to him. Vassell, I think he's a decent enough prospect, but for fantasy, he hasn't shown enough upside for me to want to get to him on a slate like this. So what do you make of the Spurs starting lineup there?
Yeah, that's the exact same feelings I have. He's been all right in some of his outings. I think rookies have more room to grow into a larger role, especially later into the season for a team that may or may not be competitive going forward. We'll see. But I think Devin Vassell, not somebody that I'm going to prioritize by any means on the slate. Plus, we have so many good guards to be going to on the slate that I don't think that there's really a need to go there.
All right. And by the way, I'm getting to a lot of Robert Williams now, and I have no issue with that. I'm going to be quite content with my Robert Williams. That did bring down my ownership of Mo Wagner a little bit, but I'm cool with that. Robert Williams is my guy tonight.
He's just such a good fantasy point per minute guy that it helps so much to mitigate any kind of minutes concerns you have for him. Like if he gets to 24 minutes, he's just a smash.
And the other thing too, so he played, I just said it before, but I forgot the number off the top of my head. What was it? 22 minutes last game. It was 17 minutes last game. So let's even say a worst case. What do you think is the worst case scenario for Robert Williams minutes? Like excluding anything like he gets hurt or gets into foul trouble. Like realistically, what's the
worst case scenario is he only plays 18 minutes. He played 17 last time out. He was out for a couple games. Maybe it's something where it's matchup based, where they're trying to get him out there in the first two rotations of the first and third quarter and then resting him from then on, maybe bringing him at the end. But I would say 18 minutes is like your floor. And for a guy at 1.3 fantasy points per minute, I'm fine living and dying with a guy who's going to be that low owned. I don't know how many people are going to be reacting to that coming up to lock here. So I'm right there with you, where the more I'm thinking about this, the more that I'm putting it in play in the numbers. Like if he ends up getting to, right now we had him plugged in for around 21 before. If he gets to 24 minutes, he's a slate breaker.
And by the way, we do have a question in the YouTube chat. Jeremy C was asking, code for Yahoo is just Awesemo, right? Yes, that is correct. Promo code Awesemo. Also make sure that you're spelling Awesemo correctly. But yeah, promo code Awesemo. It's also only for new users. So new users of Yahoo, go sign up, use the promo code Awesemo, and you get $30 in free play money. We do have a super chat here from Legarian Bridgewater. He's saying DK cash game with Middleton / Holiday.
That is a fantastic name, by the way. Legarian Bridgewater. That might be my favorite name I've ever read. That sounds like I don't even know. Obviously the Bridgewater part, quarterback, but Legarian, that's great. Anywho, Middleton Holiday. Yeah, you need to do that.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what the question is. I like Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. If you had a more specific question about Drew Holiday or Chris Middleton, feel free to fire that in and I'll answer it. But
so I have an answer. Play them.
Yeah, but if it's, how about this? If he's asking Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday, what would your answer be? Because that could potentially be the question.
I would say positionality would probably lead me to say Middleton, but I would have to see the rest of your lineup.
I have more exposure to Middleton, so that is my answer. I think both of them are really strong plays, but I have more exposure to Middleton tonight, so that is where I would go if I was choosing between the two. All right, let's jump back over to Yahoo. Let's talk about some of the spend up options. Obviously, as you said before, construction's a little bit different. This isn't like Fanduel or Draftkings. Like my lineups today on DK's just superstars and scrubs, especially after we got the Mo Wagner news. I was paying up for everybody. I was saving money everywhere I could. The build I made for Yahoo looks a little bit different. I don't have the same exposure to, guys like Kyrie Irving as a pay up option. Instead, I'm getting a lot of lineups with guys like, Anthony Davis, where he's only 3,100. Then we get, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday. They look like really strong plays, but much more so building lineups that are kind of mid-range builds. Like I get to Damian Lillard a lot at $38, but that's also because he's kind of priced not like a real stud on the slate. So who are the guys you're prioritizing the most overall on Yahoo?
Yeah, Anthony Davis. It's kind of fun to be able to get exposure to some guys that you're not getting anywhere else on the slate. I think with LeBron there, he's not going to play like a crazy amount of minutes, but 31 is a low number. I mean, that's almost half of Russell Westbrook. Like, think about it in that direction where, like, that's kind of the way the salary structures are set up. It's not like 8K or 9K on FanDuel and then 11K Russ. I mean, it's much more drastic, the difference between them. So getting Anthony Davis at 31 is just a strong play. And I like taking an aggressive stand on him because I'm not getting exposure to him anywhere else in DFS. Going down a little bit further, we talked about Chris Middleton, a dollar less down there as well. Over on Yahoo, 1.1 fantasy points per minute, but that goes up to 1.32 Yahoo points per minute when you get Giannis Antetokounmpo off the floor. Another priority there, you get to play him over at the small forward position only. It fills the gap there. Not really anybody else at small forward that I'm like that excited to be going to. Look at the rest of the position there because it is a very strict position. DeMar DeRozan, Bogdanovich, Bridges, Hield. I'm just going to play Middleton in all the lineups and move on.
All right. And by the way, we did get a follow-up from our guy, Legarian Bridgewater, one of the best names in the business. He was asking, clarifying, said he was asking, should you play them together? In cash games, yes. In GPPs, I don't think you have to, but I also wouldn't have an issue if you did it. I think that the two of them together, that's fine. I have it in some lineups, but I think for cash games, you should definitely play both of them.
I'm right there with you. You are sharp.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Let's see. All right. No more super chats coming in here. Let's hit on some of the value plays on Yahoo. Some of the cheap guys we've mentioned before as projecting out as really highly owned. Let me bring up that ownership projection again. I'll give this a refresh and see what the latest is on Yahoo. But there was some of the cheaper guys. Bobby Portis in particular was picking up a whole bunch of ownership on Yahoo. Let's see where everybody is at now. So the most popular value plays, Bobby Portis at $13. We have Delon Wright at $11. Let's see, Mikal Bridges at $16. That's a little. D'Anthony Melton at $12. So of the three cheapest options, Melton $12, Delon Wright $11, Bobby Portis at $13. Those are the chalk value plays. Those are the ones that people are going to go like more of the stars and scrubs type builds. So of those guys, is there anybody who feel differently should maybe be going lesser owned or not be popular?
I do like the Delon Wright play over there as well. $11 kind of sits nicely in lineups. I'm not getting a ton of exposure to him elsewhere as well. That's kind of been the trend. And I think that that's a good way to treat it. Like, I think Adam talks about it all the time where he's playing Draftkings and Fanduel and getting exposures to different price points. This exists on Yahoo in such a more drastic way than the comp between Draftkings and Fanduel. I think that there is such a difference in the way that these salaries are built and in the way that you can get exposure to certain players. So Delon Wright at $1 more than the minimum. Think about that being like a 3,200 or a 3,400 player over on DraftKings. Very, very strong potential for him to go over 25 on Yahoo, projecting around 27 here at Awesemo. Big fan of getting to him.
All right. And here's an interesting question from Swanson79. He's asking, are 4 Celtics okay in one lineup? I think it's a DraftKings related question, but whatever. It's going to be the same answer for me on all sites. 4 Celtics is a lot. I don't even know what 4 Celtics I like that much. I have exposure. Like I said, I have a bunch of exposure to Robert Williams now. Evan Fournier on FanDuel is a good play, but I can't even fathom which 4 Celtics you'd be playing together.
I saw that question and I didn't even really know where to go. I'm assuming what happens is that he's looking at Fournier, Robert Williams, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. And that is, yes, too many Celtics. Don't do that.
Yeah, that is a lot of them. I'm not even sure that those are actually the guys because.
And if you're going to do it, like if you're going to decide that, you know what, I like this lineup or whatever, it better have something from the other side because you're basically saying, I want double overtime.
Yeah, or triple overtime. You might need with the prices of all those guys. if you only get one overtime, you might be out of luck because I don't know that's going to be enough. By the way, guys, we do have 10 minutes into the Yahoo Slate locks. Like we said, they were putting up some contests specifically for our show and for us to really push these contests. They did run a really big NBA Big Baller contest that filled earlier in the day, but we still have. Let's see if I can make out on the screen. Looks like about 200 entries left in their $8,000 contest, which is 2K at first. So some potential overlay there. And I mean, also, if there's only going to be 400 entries in that contest, which right now still 200 spots open, for sure you want to jump in that because there's no value in DFS quite like overlay. Also use the promo code Awesemo. That is spelled, by the way, because we did see some people in the YouTube chat earlier said, is Awesemo the correct code? First of all, you have to be a new sign up to Yahoo. Also, Awesemo is spelled AWESEMO. So make sure you're spelling Awesemo correctly to go join in that contest. It's going to be locking in 9 minutes and not quite full as of yet. So definitely want to go check that out. And until then, Eric and I will be going over some of the best overall plays on Yahoo that maybe you could just cherry pick some of these plays, make a deposit, get some free money, and just use some of the guys we're talking about right now. Let's see. Who are some of the other players that you are getting? Okay, here's how we'll go with this. Who are some of the players you're getting exposure to on Yahoo that we have not yet talked about?
Xavier Tillman is $10 over there. I have a lineup with him over there at the moment. I don't know if that's going to be something that I end up with here or not. Trying to figure out what to do with some of these Memphis guys going up against Orlando. I think that there is the reverse blowout narrative where it's somebody that I think is already going to be plugging in to play around 20-ish minutes and see a lot more if that game does get wonky. So I think finding upside like that is an interesting way of building over there. I was going to play Lauri Markkanen. I'm getting my exposure to him over at FanDuel, where he's 3,800. It's just kind of a weird play that Rinpack made me look at earlier last night. And generally he picks these guys out when they're about to hit a ceiling, and it's really eerie how many times he's able to call it. But if you were to get like 26, 28 minutes here, you're getting direct leverage off of a chalky Thad Young play, especially over at Yahoo. He's $10 there. So another $10 play. There are so many insanely good $10 plays. I'd rather play him than Devin Vassell, who's $10. I'd rather play him than Rudy Gay, Davis Bertans. I think just getting somebody that might have some extra upside there that gets leverage off of a guy like Thad, where he's going to fail. You're going to pass 50% of the field and possibly have a guy who smashes.
All right. And by the way, we do have DeColt. Steve Buzzard is in YouTube chat right now. And I think it's relevant to know that the guys who he says he's pretty high on Yahoo, but he says that he is smashing Anthony Davis, Portis, and Middleton on Yahoo. And hey, listen, if there's anybody you should be listening to in the DFS industry, even more so than Eric and myself, you want to listen to DeColt, Steve Buzzard. So those are the guys he's on Yahoo. And by the way, guys that we like also. So all the more reason to be doubling and maybe even tripling down on Anthony Davis, Chris Middleton, and Bobby Portis. What do you make of Nikola Vucevic and all the ownership that he's picking up on Yahoo? For sure, I think that the price is a little bit too cheap. I do worry, though, that the ownership of, what was that number? 31.2%. That looks a little high to me, given how many center options there are. For sure, I think that Vucevic just on a points per dollar play is really strong. If you're playing cash games on Yahoo, I think that Bobby Portis and Nikola Vucevic in the same lineup is a very good way to go, especially considering what the ownership is. Obviously, Vucevic has seen an uptick in usage as of late with Zach LaVine out in the COVID protocol. But to me, 31% usage, that's a spot where I think I'd be looking to go maybe a little elsewhere at the center position on Yahoo and maybe pay up for somebody else to differentiate. So what are you doing with Vucevic and all the ownership he has?
I'm light on him because I think that a lot of the value that exists on Yahoo today is at the center position. I think that there's a lot of upside sitting at lower ranges. I talked about Bamba. I think going over, let me pull it back up here. I think going to Nurkic is viable there at $27 for substantially cheaper. I mean, he's the most expensive active center on the entire slate. I think that that's why he's kind of getting directed to the ownership that he is there. He does make a great accessory to your Middleton Drew lineups for sure. Hoping that game just shoots out entirely, but I'm going to be a little bit lighter on it for sure. I have him in one of my 5 lineups that I have in the big tournament, but I can't really blame you if you're going to go to any other, like if you're going to go to Vooch and kind of go down elsewhere. I just think you're sacrificing upside at the point guard position where I want to be getting to Russ and Kyrie and Damian Lillard at $38 and Drew Holiday at $35. He basically kind of like isolates your lineup to be focused more on him than I want it to.
By the way, did you see the Cavaliers just signed Anderson Varejao out for the rest of the season?
I thought it was like a retirement thing when I saw it come through. I was like, are they going to retire him after like he'll appear in one game and come in and play there? The Brazilian, I mean, he's a legend in Cleveland.
Yeah, that is. I just saw that news. I was like, well, like the first thing I thought of, number one, he tore his Achilles. That was like 8 years ago or something like that. But yeah, that's crazy. I was not expecting that. That really caught me off guard. By the way, let's see where are we at on that Yahoo contest. How many entries are left to fill there? Last I saw that was posted to me in the Slack chat, it looked like there was about 150 entries left to fill. A little hard to keep up with it exactly how many entries we're at as we are going. But I mean, still 4 minutes to lock. At least last we looked, there was still overlay in the 8K contest on Yahoo and $2,000 to first place. Like I said before, promo code Awesemo. Get $30 in free entries if you use the promo code Awesemo and you are a new sign up over at Yahoo. So go check that out. And it looks like there's a chance we could have overlay in that final contest that ran. It was a second or maybe even third iteration at that point of the big 25K contest that they were running. But anyway, how about any contrarian plays that really stand out to you on Yahoo?
Oh, you're asking the wrong guy. All I do is just, I mean, come on now. I have my name for a reason. I am the one Chalkmaster flex. I can't possibly give you something off the board. Oh yeah, I can give you something off the board. I was gonna say like we could change the limitations for you, right? Like we can make such rules. Be like, hey, anybody under 30% owned contrarian play as far as Eric Lindquist goes. So in that same vein, talking about Lauri Markkanen at $10, I think there is some viability. When you're talking about $2 more off the floor to go to Daniel Tice, 2.6% ownership right now over on, he just was in the last lineup that I put together. We saw 2 games ago where he got up to those 32 minutes, went completely bonkers, put up I know he had 12 boards in that game, 23 real points, just completely destroyed that slate. Then went up against the Knicks and they got blown out. I think people are kind of forgetting about the fact that Daniel Tice has been playing those mid-20s minutes here of late. If it hadn't been a blowout against the Knicks, I think he still would have gotten to 26, 28 minutes. As direct leverage, again, coming off of that Thad Young play is such an important thing for me. And I think Daniel Tice succeeding could also be another path for that. So under 3%, he's in one of my 5.
All right. And by the way, it looks like right now we have in the neighborhood of about 100 entries left. So go check that out because it looks like there could be a little bit of overlay over on Yahoo. We did get a question I saw that came across really quick in the YouTube chat that just because it was Yahoo related, I wanted to answer this. But somebody asked if Davis Bertans was a viable play at $10. I would rather just go to Mo Wagner if I was going with by the way, different teams. But either way, if I'm going with just a $10 guy who's unowned, Mo Wagner, former teammate of Davis Bertans, that would be the just unowned cheap guy that I'd be going with. How about that? Who's a guy for $10 that does not have ownership that you think is a viable punt option on Yahoo? For me, the answer is Mo Wagner.
Yeah, I think he's a great call. I think Gorgie Jang is under 2%. If you were to end up, Utah just keeps just running people out of the gym. I don't think they're going to run Phoenix out of the gym necessarily, but low 20s minutes, 3-point shooter can go out there and do a little bit of work. Looking around the rest, I mean, there are a lot more $10 plays than there are on a given, like a normal slate for sure. I think Mo Wagner is really kind of the cream of the crop out of everybody, but he's a different position. He's at center there. Whereas at forward, if you want to target Bertans, we know we can go out there and knock down a couple threes. Just be ready to experience the floor there too.
Yeah, and by the floor, potentially the basement, because there are some games where Davis Bertans will play like 24 minutes, and he will take shots and he will miss all of them, and he does not do anything other than shoot. He's not going to go out there. He's not going to rack up assists. He's not going to rack up rebounds. You're very dependent on just good variance in 3-point shooting, which for me, I just think there's better value plays on this slate than going to Davis Bertans. But anyway, guys, we have about 60 seconds until Yahoo Lock. I don't know exactly what the delay is on the timer here on YouTube, but by the time I'm saying this, we could already be locked on Yahoo. But at least last I brought it up before, there was a little bit of overlay, so you're going to want to jump on that. If that is not filled yet. And by the way, also Terrence Ross officially out for the Orlando Magic, as was expected. But that is going to bring us to lock now here, Eric. So final thoughts on the slate as a whole. Who is going to make or break you tonight?
Oh my God. Alize Johnson, Mo Wagner, 3K specials over on DraftKings. This is exactly what I expected to do when I woke up this morning, just jamming in a bunch of 3K guys and praying that it works out. But this was a blast and absolutely loved playing over on Yahoo. Thanks for them sponsoring us, giving us an opportunity to talk about their product, and really, really enjoy playing over there. And I hope all of you do too.
Yeah, and by the way, the guy who's going to make or break me at this point is going to be Robert Williams after I swapped onto him as a late swap. So
how much do you have on DraftKings is my question.
Oh, I don't even know now because I closed the tab as soon as we hit to 7:30.
You're clocking out for the week. You can't wait.
When we hit 7:30, I close all my tabs. As soon as it hits 7:30, I just hit the X on everything that is up with me on Fantasy Cruncher. So whatever. I'm not going to delay the show just so I could pull it up. We're already working overtime here, Eric Lindquist.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Let's wrap it up, guys. Thank you to our sponsor, Yahoo, and hopefully we do more of these on Fridays. And guys, everybody who stuck around, thanks for checking us out. I think the people are gone by now. It's more about the holding them over in between.